Happy Monday, degenerates. Welcome on back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm your host, as always, your boy Clint behind the camera, and we have got a big fight week to talk about. If it's UFC 329, it is not a pay-per-view any longer, so I'm going to start calling them big fight weeks. You guys know how it is. We're coming off of a break. Us gamblers and fight fans, we're all foaming at the mouth. And then, of course, you've got these idiots that are like kicking a ball around on like a field of grass or whatever. I don't know why they felt like they wanted to go up against me in the ratings because, you know, we're just absolutely going to be blowing them out of the water. Just poor decision making on their part, right? Like, what were they even thinking? Welcome back into the show, everybody. I hope you had an amazing break. I hope you got to charge up, you know, get your batteries ready to go so we can come back here and assault the UFC, looking to get on track, looking to pile up some chips and stack some cash. We're going to break down every single fight on this card, and it is a good one, by the way, ladies and gents. It is a good card to talk about. There are opportunities this week, and it's just going to be an absolute banger. So welcome on into the show, everybody. We got my boy Vinzi, who's in the house, my soccer guru, by the way. If you guys, didn't already catch up on that, he's been feeding me the info as needed, and it's been pretty fantastic. He's already throwing out the plays there in the chat. What's up, buddy? We've got Andy. How's it going on, my friend? Hope you are doing well. I do have to let you guys know I'm a little bit slow on the trigger finger here this week because I actually don't have a mouse. That's right. We had too many issues. Remember the old computer laptop meltdown that kept happening? Not going to happen on McGregor Fight Week, right? We haven't had Conor McGregor in the UFC for 5 years. You think I'm going to let my laptop, shut down in the middle of the show and then mess us up halfway through our breakdown? Not happening. But the problem is the new laptop, it actually only has 2 USB ports. So I don't have like a wireless mouse plug that I can use. So I got to use the stupid little trackpad on my finger. So if I'm a little slow getting to your comments in the chat, it's because I'm using my finger. And no, not today, my friend. Ain't happening. Not on this bad boy. This machine is a monster. Well, I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday weekend, and I don't want to just bury the lead much more, right? We got a lot of fights to talk about tonight, a lot of good ones, and they even slapped an extra one on us just right before we started the show. There's one more fight. We're not going to talk much about it because we didn't have time to research it, but we might as well mention it, right? So I have brought the best of the best gambler extraordinaire, one of the sharpest eyes you've ever seen in the game, one of the coolest dudes in the scene, none other than my man Art C, to break down this awesome card with me here today. Art, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
What's going on, Clint? Always great to break down cards with you, especially the big one. The King is back, McGregor. After a long layoff, can't wait to break it down. You're going to get all the casual fans watching this week. They're going to come back and watch the return of the King. Unfortunately, we'll get to that breakdown, but we'll see, see if he can live up to the hype and all that stuff. So can't wait to talk fights with you.
Gonna be a fun one, man. Gonna be a good one. Now, I know we're coming off the break week, like we mentioned. I took an L, unfortunately, on the last fight card. How'd you do on Fiziev versus Torres?
Overall, it was a very small card for me. I think I took a very small L. I think down a unit. It was coming down to the last fight, I believe. I had the over 1.5, and it barely got their finish right at the end of or the beginning of the second round there. So it turned the winning night into a small losing night. But overall, I thought the reads were there. Live betting, I think we did okay. But yeah, very small week for me, for my standards. So we're back this week, and we're just gonna blow it up this week.
Beautiful. Okay. A break even week, honestly, in this day and age, it's tough to make money gambling on the UFC. You can't really complain about a break even kind of week. I'm down a little bit, and I blame the judges, man. My first pick of the entire night basically swung the event for me. Bekzat Alkamon, I thought he won the fight. It goes 29-28 for Gene Matsumoto. I thought it was round one and round three for Bekzat pretty clearly. Unfortunately, they gave round two and three for Matsumoto, and that was all she wrote. Some of my other plays didn't really come through. I took the big dog shot on Andre Pulayev, and I on last week's card, man, I told everybody, I was like, this is going to look terrible if he loses in round one. Like, it just is going to look like a god-awful bet. Obviously, Nursultan could catch him early, and that's exactly what happened. So everybody mocked me relentlessly online for that one. But, Aso Almabayev came through looking good. Even though it started off rough, Shara Bullet, man, they just don't let that guy lose over there. So he got dropped, worked his way back into the fight, made that whole thing work. Couple of sketchy results though. Magomedov looked a little sketchy for a minute. Ali Eshkarov looked a little sketchy for a little bit. That was a close and contentious card. I was nowhere near the big upset with Mateus Camilo landing that big round one knockout, but I did know to stay away from Nazim Sadikov at a minus 200 price tag. So dodged a couple bullets, like you were saying, man. The reads feel like they were at least close to being there, and hopefully we can turn that into some green here at UFC 329. Let's get into it, man. Everyone's rolling in. We've already got over 100 live viewers. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining the show. Please share the show. Hit the like button if you haven't. Of course, my boy Art, his stuff is all in the description below. Make sure you give him a follow. One of the sharpest guys I know. And I'm not just saying that to blow smoke. I do absolutely believe that. And also, welcome in to my TikTok viewers. Everybody, this is my very first time trying to live stream this thing on TikTok. So if you guys are on TikTok, you're first to the show. Welcome in. I've been trying to figure it out for months. Finally got it set up. And unfortunately, I'm getting hit with like live bans as we're speaking that I'm trying to figure out while we do the show. So I'm gonna have to play with this as we go here. But let's keep it rolling, everybody. First fight of the night. Cody Durden takes on Alessandro Costa. Now, you guys know, if you've been watching for a while, I've got kind of a love-hate with Cody Durden. Didn't think much of the guy when he first made it to the UFC. And I really didn't think he was going to be all that great, if we're being honest. But since he's been here, Art, this guy has shown nothing but will and heart. He's training with the champ. He's at ATT. He's at a really good gym. And you can just see it in his fights. He digs deep. Like, that guy knows what he's got to do to win sometimes. And he's coming off of a win. He got on track against Andre Filo I'm sorry, not Andre. That's the 170 pounder. Rafael Filo. Thank you. I'm mixing my Brazilians up here. He got on track with that fight in his last one. I actually was able to jump in live on that one. He was such a big underdog in that fight. Everybody expected him to lose, myself included. And then as the fight was going on, you could see Filo's gas tank was just kind of starting to chip away, and Durden was taking over. So I jumped in live. I got a small piece of him to kind of bail out of the parlay that I was in. That was nice, but good to see him get a win. He's a nice enough guy. And like I said, just all heart. But the issue is, he kind of redlines himself, Art. Like, he pushes so hard that the people who can kind of keep pace with him early, he doesn't have a lot to give in the second and the third rounds, and then he gets caught. He's got 5 losses, 5 by way of submission. And now here he's getting a short notice replacement fighter, Alessandro Costa, who is 16-5. Alessandro is really trying to get his career off and running. He is 30 years old, and he's coming off of a huge win. He got Matt Danger Snell out of there in the first round in his last fight. He's on a 2-fight win streak, back-to-back knockout wins. He was kind of alternating wins and losses prior to that, and now it seems like maybe he's kind of found his groove and he's looking to make up for a little bit of lost time. This guy's a little Brazilian killer, man. Heavy on the front leg, kind of walks his way forward, just disrespectfully walks his opponents down, and then starts ripping power shots in the pocket. He's got this monstrous, like, turtle shell of a back on him, and he's got serious power for this weight class. He can kind of slow down, but man, Art, it's these shoot the box guys. Every time I talk about them, like, slowing down, they know how to push. You know what I mean? Like, they don't slow down like everybody else does. They can still throw hammers even when they're tired. So this fight, to me, seems like a pretty obvious Alessandro Costa spot. I know he's expensive, but I think he's going to struggle with the grappling of Cody Durden early. And then I think he's going to flip the script and take over once Cody starts getting tired. Costa is a minus 270 favorite right now. Durden is plus 220. And I get that coming off of a win like in his last fight with Durden, I think a lot of people will be interested and enticed in that plus 200 number. But I think we kind of fall back to form here. I could see Costa submitting or TKOing him in like the second or the third round once he starts to slow down a little bit and makes a mistake.
Yeah, this is a very interesting fight to start the card, and this is a very unique situation for me here. Just to give you some background, you talked about Cody Durden coming in on short notice against Rafael Filo. Now, what you don't know is that Cody Durden fight camp actually reached out to me and asked me for some help. He coming on short notice against Filo, just to get some ideas. What is Filo all about? What does he do well? What does he not do well? Sort of thing. So we went deep into the think tank. We watched all of Filo's fight career from start to finish. We pinpointed some weaknesses and some strengths and stuff, and we basically called it out to say Filo doesn't do well with leg kicks. Filo doesn't do well. Sometimes he's too content with playing BJJ off of his back. And Filo doesn't do well with the overhand right? And we called all of those out. And Durden took that advice. He executed completely perfectly. He came in on 5 days' notice and cashed as a plus 500 underdog. So he's always live to come in there and spoil the fun. He's always game, like you talked about, always willing to take a fight here. So, he had that fight booked with Ode Osborne, and same thing. We went back and we watched the Ode Osborne tape. It was a great matchup for Cody Durden, if I'm being honest. Unfortunately, Cody pulls out and now is replaced by Alessandro Costa. So I can't go into too much detail, but I did watch a lot of tape on Alessandro Costa, and I can see or sort of comment on sort of a couple of things. One, Costa's coming in on short notice. Is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? He actually came in on a short notice against Amir Albazi. That's how he got that fight. And he came in on short notice against Steve Erceg. Those are a big step up in competitions on both of those times. Unfortunately, he lost, but he was very competitive in both of those fights. Yeah, he got knocked out by Albazi straight right down the middle. Steve Erceg was tied 1-1 going into the third. Erceg ends up pushing him against the fence, can't get the takedowns, ends up winning a 29-28 type of a decision there. So those losses are pretty close, and those are big step up. Those are like top 5 in the division sort of thing, right? Some of his wins are sort of like kind of gimme wins, the Jimmy Flick, Matt Schnell, even Stuart Nichols sort of thing. Those guys were like he deserved to win, or like not deserved to win, but like those guys are bottom of the barrel, right? So you're getting two things where you're fighting the top of the barrel and losing, and then the bottom of the barrel and winning and stuff, right? But he is very dangerous, right? He has a couple of good weapons. I will say the Jimmy Flick fight, the Borjas fight, and I believe the Nickel fight were all related to the leg kicks. He came out leg kick heavy, and he battered the legs. And by the end, or by the second round, all 3 of those opponents were starting to limp on the leg, became one-legged, and then it's a lot easier to finish and stuff, right? The one loss to Alden Correa, he ended up injuring his foot or something into the third round. It looked like he wanted to quit between rounds. His corner forces him out of there and out in the third round, and then he eventually gets finished. But otherwise, he's very hard to put away. He looks obviously very strong, good counter grappling, obviously good power. You talked about the winging shots and stuff like that, right? So it's going to be hard for Cody Durden here, I think. But I think with the right approach, the right type of game plan, I definitely think that he's live. I could see it both ways, right? Again, I don't want to give out too much, but I do think that Cody Durden, again, he's been training for Ode Osborne. This is a completely different type of matchup here, but I'm very interested to see how he comes out with the approaches, and given the right strategy, I think he can be very competitive here. I wouldn't be willing to lay super juice on Costa coming in on short notice for this type of matchup. He has shown that short notice is not really big for him, but it could be a detriment here. For me, it would be dog or pass, but yeah, I get the play on Costa based on what I've seen on tape.
Okay, definitely understandable. And if you guys haven't seen Art before, he, definitely keeping cards a little close to the chest, considering he helped out one of the camps in this one, which is freaking cool, by the way. So definitely we'll have more to say on some of these other fights coming up. Dude, I swung all the way from holy crap, I'm getting Cody Durden versus an Ode Osborne. That was going to be my favorite spot on the card. I wanted to just hammer Cody Durden there because we know Ode slows down, gets tired, can't really grapple all that well. I loved that fight. And now that it's flipped, I'm like all the way on the other side. I'm like, I love this Costa kid. Think he's taken off. And then I think Cody Durden is just kind of like, and I don't want to mean this is not insulting. He's a gatekeeper. You know what I mean? He's a mid-tier gatekeeper in the UFC at this point. He's going to beat some good guys. He's not going to beat the great guys. He'll check you if you're, if the UFC feels like you're getting a little too big for your britches or you're new to the organization. He will give you a rude welcome. I think Costa is somebody who ranks a little higher than that. So for me, it's favored or pass, but definitely understand the points that you made. And it's a really fun fight. Guys, we are already up and over 200 live viewers in just that first breakdown. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. Hit the like button, share the show, and especially all you guys on TikTok. My first time streaming on TikTok ever. I believe I have already been shadow banned on TikTok. I'm trying to figure this out as I go. Art, I don't know that they like the gaming aspect of what we're doing. So I'm going to have to watch what I'm saying. I think I said gambling or something, and that might have red flagged the stream or whatever. So those of you who are on TikTok, if you wouldn't mind, reposting the show, sharing it out there, something like that, help me catch a couple of extra eyes so that we can build the following over there as well. I would very much appreciate it. I'm new to the streaming game on TikTok.
I didn't even know we were gambling. We were just talking fights.
That's true. We're just talking fights. These numbers, just, things. What are we doing? All right, guys. Next up, we've got Ryan Gandra, and he's taking on Zach the Savage Reese in our second fight of the night. And, my first bet of the night. So back to that whole gambling thing, Art. Sorry about that, TikTok. I've moved already on this one, you guys. First play of the week, and I'll bet you some of you can probably guess what it is. Zach Reese is 10-3. He's 32 years old, guys. He is 2-2-1 so far in his last 5 fights, and just a terrible level of competition, Art, in my opinion, at least. Like, this guy, I've not been overly impressed with Zach Reese, just straight up period, since he's been in the UFC. But the guys he's fought with that 2-2-1 record, I'm even less excited about what he's done so far. You know what I mean? He's coming off just the worst split decision ever with Michel Pereira, who we saw basically had 2 punches worth of throw in his last fight. And somehow they did like a staring contest and went all the way the full 15 minutes. No idea how that happened. He did beat Jackson McVeigh. He almost died in the first round. Jackson, UFC debut, adrenaline dumped. It happens. We've seen that happen before to a lot of people. He did grind out a decision against Dusko Todorovic, who's on his last legs in the UFC. That would be an okay win, maybe, 5-6 years ago, something like that. And then he got smoked in his UFC debut. I know a lot of people like Zach Reese. He is big. He's got a large frame, but I feel like he's kind of a round one merchant, really. He plays off of his back too much. He's done that less. I'll give him credit for that. He's kind of working on his overall MMA game, but you saw a lot of his regional shows. Everything was submission off the back, whether it was a guillotine, an arm bar. Like, this guy was fishing for subs, willing to go down to bottom, and he paid for that once or twice early in the UFC. And he's like, okay, I got to not do that anymore. Well, now he's not even a great round one finisher. He's now having to drag these carcasses a full 15 minutes and is going to split decisions. And maybe he is improving. He's getting a little bit better. He's acclimating, but really, I just don't see much for Zach Reese. I think he's kind of hanging on to a roster spot, just generally speaking. Ryan Gandra is 30 years old. He's 1-0 so far in the UFC off Dana White's Contender Series. And he's one of these guys, Art, that looks a bit like a beast. I mean, I'm doing my best to try to bet on these guys more often because I kind of had this hoity-toity thing of you're coming off Dana White's Contender Series. I don't think you're ready for the big show. That worked for season 1. When these guys were just getting their feet wet in the UFC, Dana White's Contender Series was brand new. They overhyped everybody coming off that show, and they took L's in the UFC left and right. It's not that way anymore. These guys are UFC ready, and especially the ones that the UFC looks to push right out the gates, more often than not, they're making a splash. Ryan Gandra is one of the guys that's making a splash.
Oh, the knee splits the card for Gandra.
Yeah, big knee. Big knee.
He's wasting no time. A flush right hand as well. And that's going to do it.
Brazilian judo national champion, started at heavyweight. He dropped down to 205. Now he dropped down to 185. So he's gone the full cannoneer, dropping multiple weight classes. And he's got fast hands. He starts quick. He is wild. I will say, I think someone at some point, if he doesn't patch that up, will make him pay Art, swinging those big wild hooks like he does. But I don't think Zach Reese is that guy. And frankly, I don't think Zach Reese has the chin or the heart to hang with the kind of punishment that he's going to deal with. I like Ryan Gandra a lot. I got minus 142, and I went ahead and moved on it. That's my first play of the week. I saw he opened up as a dog somewhere, and I kind of laughed about it when that soft opener hit. Somebody out there has plus 180 or something in pocket. Most of us didn't get access to that, but I think short chalk on Ryan Gandra makes sense. I think he's going to smash Zach Reese this week. What about you?
Yeah, very not surprising, Clint, that you were fading a Zach Reese here. I remember we talked about that Dumas fight all the time, that you were big on
Yep.
Dumas against Zach Reese, and I was on the other side. I was big on Zach Reese, maybe because I fade Dumas a lot here. But yeah, you talked about Gandra. Like, yeah, he's looked good, and you're not going to like this, but I do think that there's some obviously recency bias in there. Yeah, he takes out Medina in 40 seconds, whereas Zach Reese had to take him to decision, couldn't finish him. That's the common opponent here and stuff, right? But Medina's not great, right? He's lost 5 in a row or something like that, right? And he beats Trent Miller on Contender Series in 2.5 minutes, sort of thing. There's just not a lot of tape on Gandra, right? He's very reckless. I categorize him as a brawler, right? He just sits in the pocket, stands still, like squares up and just goes left, right, left, right, left, right. And he puts people down, right? And he's fighting like lower level competition in the regionals. Um, the one fight that went to decision, that Luis Fabiano fight. Well, first off, he opens his career with a 5-round decision, but after that he goes to 3 rounds with Fabiano. He was gassed within, like, right after the first round, coming out in round number 2, completely gassed. Fabiano's just not very good, I guess. He tried a couple of takedowns, easily stuffed, and then was able to survive enough to win a decision. But the cardio dump, because he goes so aggressive in round number 1, is kind of concerning. If it gets out of round 1, do you want to be sitting there with a Gandra juice ticket against somebody like Zach Reese? Now, I don't think Zach Reese is super amazing by all that means, but I do think that he has some tools here and he can make this fight very interesting. You talked about some of the losses and the wins and stuff. Michel Pereira split decision, I get it. It's not a great look and stuff, right? But the times that he gets knocked out, right? He loses to Cody Brundage because he got slammed. He had the the armbar. He was looking for the armbar. Cody Brundage picks him up, slams him, and knocks him out. Not really a typical TKO, right? Same thing with Bakoyev. Bakoyev takes him down and ground and pounds him and KOs him, right? So he's not really getting KO'd on the feet. It's more about like on the ground or weird circumstances and stuff like that, right? So it's not to say that I think he has a great chin or by any means, but I do think that striking, he's okay. Couple of things is that he fights from southpaw, so he does like that left kick to the body. That will zap even more of the cardio if he can start to land that on Gandra. The other thing is Gandra likes the outside low kick as well, and Zach Reese fighting in southpaw doesn't really give him that kind of look, right? And so now Gandra's going to have to just walk him down, enter the pocket, and just start swinging. He plants his feet, sets his power, and just starts swinging. I think that gives Zach Reese the perfect opportunity to easily level change on him, get this takedown, and get him down to the mat there, right? I haven't seen a ton of film, and I'll be honest, of Gandra off of his back. I'm just relating it more to a cardio aspect. I do think that there is a path to victory for Reese with grappling, getting him or just pushing him on the fence, tiring him out a little bit. Not saying that Reese has a spectacular cardio either. I just think that there's more paths to victory for Zach Reese, either through body kicks, through punching himself, because Gandra's not the most defensively sound. I think that into the later rounds, I would have to favor Zach Reese into the later rounds. Maybe it's a better live bet spot on Zach Reese here. But I tend to be, I fade the recency bias when some guys coming off of back-to-back round 1 wins, 30 seconds long against Jose Medina. I tend to fade them when they come in as a favorite the next fight, because I think a majority of the public just sees the record, sees Zach Reese a couple of losses. Oh, this must be a Gandra type of fight here. But I think with the right game plan, with the grappling aspect here, I think that Zach Reese can be live, and I favor him to win later on. He just has to avoid the hurricane, within the first 3 minutes or so. And if he can do that, if he can stall him out, then I think that he's very live here. So I actually, on the other side, I took Zach Reese as a dog. I think I got plus 130-ish in that range, but only a unit. Not a super confident play, but it's more contrarian and going against the grain here.
Okay, some early disagreement here between myself and Art, and yeah, no shock that I'm fading Zach Reese. We've talked about this guy a couple of times, so Art knows what's up. Um, yeah, man. I see. For me, Zach Reese, I don't think I can even give him the credit of having that cardio advantage late. Like just watching the Michelle decision, watching the Dusko decision, and even the fight that you're talking about that he won with Jose Medina. I actually bet Jose Medina live because Zach Reese looks so exhausted that I felt like one good shot would put him down. He does not fade well going deep in these fights. Round 2, round 3, I feel like he falls off a massive cliff. So when it becomes a staring contest, I think the guy who's willing to walk forward and throw a punch and, at least land and give the judges something to look at, like I still think that's Gondra that would be able to grease out a close, bad round or something if we got there. But we'll see, good luck to you, my friend. That's always fun when we disagree on a fight so people can kind of get both views as far as, who wins and who loses. It's a little boring if we agree on every single fight.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, let's keep it rolling, everybody. Next up, hey, I told you guys at the top of the show there was a late addition. Farid Basharat has a new opponent, you guys. He lost his opponent for this fight card. John Garza fills in here on short notice. I saw they posted up that the opening line here for this one is Farid Basharat minus 800. And that's all I can tell you. That's all I know. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know this kid. Okay. So the UFC newcomer making his debut, coming in here on short notice. He looks like, decent record on him. I think he's 6-1 is Garza, but I've had no time to watch any tape on him. So I really know nothing about him. Farid Basharat is a good grappler. He's a point striker. They don't have a ton of, finishing upside, but if you get a short notice guy, especially coming in late like this, maybe he can find his way to like a sub or something like that. I wouldn't be shocked, but the UFC loves Farid Basharat. So I got a feeling he's probably going to win this fight. I'll have to check in with you guys later in the week. As my regular viewers know, I do a Friday show after the weigh-ins. I go live and do one final run through after we see them, face off and see them size up with each other, stuff like that. Hopefully I'll have some time throughout the week to do a little bit of study so I can tell you guys a little bit more about Garza at that point in time. Art, I know we talked about this backstage before the show got started. Bit of a curveball. Did you know anything about Garza? Do you have any thoughts on Farid? Anything you want to add to this one before we move on to the next fight, since we weren't overly prepared?
Yeah, before we got on, Clint basically told me that they found a replacement for Basharat here. Again, I don't really know him, not off memory at least. 6-1 looks okay, I guess, a good record, but I don't want to make any statements that catch up to me. I before I watch the tape, you can obviously try that wiki cap, but that's not what I'm about. I'll watch the tape and come back with an actual prediction.
All right. Yeah, that's me too. All right, everybody. We have got over 300 live viewers on the show. Art, we're gaining 100 viewers basically every single fight we break down. So, by the end of this thing, we should just be up over 1,000. Thank you guys very much for being here. Please smash the like button. Please check out my boy Art. His details are in the description below. Get subscribed if it's your first time watching the show. We do this every single week. So I know some of you are watching this one because Conor is back. You haven't watched an MMA fight in 5 years since Conor's been gone. We're not shaming you here. Welcome back into the fold, but hang around. The fights are fun every single week. We do this all the time. The next fight we want to talk to you guys about, Damian Pinas takes on Cesar Almeida in a absolute banger of a fight, Art. So this kid, Damian Pinas, 24 years old, 9-1. He's 1-0 so far in the UFC off Dana White's Contender Series, and I'm pissed off because somehow my clip got corrupted. I had a clip for you guys, and it's gone. I can't show it. He's got back-to-back round 1 KOs, man. 1 minute and 46 seconds, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Those are his 2 finishes so far under the UFC banner. This kid is a KO artist. I mean, really smooth boxing, and he's got some serious horsepower. He's explosive. He's got strong hips. He can sprawl. He's got nasty counter hooks when he gets in tight. And that right cross is an absolute piston. You look at his regional tape, multiple walk-off KOs. It's like when somebody hits a home run in baseball, man. As soon as he connects, he knows it's over. And he's like, no, I'm good. And he can just walk away. It's crazy because he's only been to round 2 twice. So I'm not really sure what he's good and bad at. I can talk about how athletic he is and how fast he is and how hard he hits. But Art, that's really all I know because that's all we've got on the tape so far. So I can't dive deep on like, oh, he's a wrestler. Oh, he's great jiu-jitsu. I don't know. I don't know. So until we really see this kid get tested, we're not going to know a whole lot about him. And I think the UFC really feels like they've got a potential star here. Cesar Almeida is 7-2 as a professional. He is 38 years old, so he's getting a little bit long in the tooth. He's 2-2 in his last 4 fights, and he's one of these Alex Pereira wannabes, right? So he world-class kickboxer, striker, turned MMA fighter. He got to the game a little late. He never really developed the anti-grappling the way that Pereira did. So even though he's had some success in the UFC, we have seen him get taken down. We have seen him get out-hustled a couple of times. He does have beautiful timing. That's his thing. He's not overly flashy. He doesn't have the biggest power, but his timing is what makes him exceptionally dangerous.
Al Hassan still swinging for the bleachers.
And he's getting through here.
He absolutely has power when he needs it in his back pocket, but it's not like a Pereira situation. He's extremely calm, and that's kind of the crazy thing. Good footwork, always circling, always cutting angles, nice chopping calf kick, pardon me. Likes to kick at the body and kind of drain that gas tank. Honestly, man, I really like Cesar Almeida. I went to war with Cesar a couple of times. I think I bet him in every single one of his fights. So I'm 2-2 right along there with him as far as backing him financially speaking. Art, I like to stick with the veterans. I like to bet the old dogs that have the experience edge. I don't think I can on this one. This Pinas kid has just so much horsepower. I wouldn't be shocked either way this fight goes. He could be just completely outclassed, where Cesar is like, welcome to the big show, kid. And his movement and his footwork, Pinas is never able to find him in there. I could see that happening and seeing Almeida win his way to a decision. I could also see Pinas cutting him off, getting the correct timing once, and that being the whole fight, because Almeida can't take the big shot coming his way. But I can't do it at this number. Pinas is a minus 225 favorite. Cesar Almeida is a plus 185 dog. And I don't want to lay minus 225 to find out when this kid, to this point, he's been KO or bust. The bust has never happened, let me be clear. But I'm not betting minus 225 for him to knock out a guy the skill level of Cesar Almeida, because people who don't follow the sport like us may not know just how good this guy is. This is a massive step up in competition. Since it's a big fight week, we do have totals early, which is nice. The over 1.5 is minus 135. And I know it's terrifying saying this kid who wins every single fight in round one is going to go up and over 1.5. But Art, I kind of feel like this is the contrarian spot where you kind of can pull that move. Because if he's dealing with a much savvier striker than he's used to, he may not be able to find that kill switch quite as early. And we know Cesar's not just going to crumple the first time he gets touched. He knows how to shell. He knows how to roll with punches. He knows how to move. I could see this fight extending a little bit longer than we see for normal Pinas fights, even if he does get a win. So I kind of would lean with that over 1.5 ever so slightly. And I'm going to pick Damian to go ahead and get the win here. Again, I just really don't like the minus 225 number.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the over 1.5, but I have different reasons, I guess. And maybe I can convince you otherwise here, right? So you talked about, let's start with Damian Pinas. I will admit that I put legit money on Wesley Schultz to win when he fought Damian Pinas, because the tape that I saw in Pinas on bottom when he's on the ground is just absolutely atrocious, right? He's obviously a good striker, very fast, that nice 1-2, but when he gets on bottom, he's just like a white belt on bottom, absolute nobody, right? And Wes Schultz tried to get him down a couple of times, couldn't do it, and then absolutely flopped and got knocked out. So, knocking out Wes Schultz is not it's not like super impressive, given what we know about Wes Schultz and stuff, right? And then same thing on Contender Series, sort of like the Gondra type of profile, right? A lot of quick wins, a lot of fast finishes and stuff here, right? And but the grappling does come into play here, and not from the Pinas side, because I don't think that Cesar Almeida is going to grapple. So I do think that it's going to be more of a stand-up battle and more of a kickboxing fight. Going over to the Cesar Almeida, you talked about Alex Pereira and how he wants to be Alex Pereira. If you didn't know, just for the other viewers, he did fight Alex Pereira 3 times. He's 1-2 against Alex Pereira, all 3 of those fights going to decision. That was back in kickboxing. He's coming from that same background of Alex Pereira, where he has that kickboxing background. And worth noting, he's never been finished in a kickboxing fight or an MMA fight. So that's, big things, especially, fighting guys like Alex Burr, fighting kickboxing his whole career, coming over to MMA and not getting finished is kind of like a good feather in your cap, right? So Cesar Almeida,
Sure.
again, his strength is going to be kickboxing. His grappling, he tends to want to just stay upright, right? What Not relevant for this fight because I don't think that Pinas is going to shoot takedowns either. But Almeida is working on the takedown defense. His get up games is really just consisting of butt scooting his way up into the fence. On the fence, he just wall walks the way back up and back up to his feet, right? And that's important to note because, he does have two losses, one against Cesare Olizacek and one against Roman Kopylov. On paper, they tend to be strikers, right? But Olizacek comes out with a grappling heavy game plan, gets 11 minutes of control time. Olizacek, I think, got 6 takedowns on him. Roman Kopylov got 5 takedowns, 8+ minutes of control. So the
That
fights
fight pissed me off, Art.
yeah. The fights that he's losing are guys that are typical strikers. Even Pretoria, same thing, are typical strikers that choose to grapple him because they don't really want to try and find out, can they strike with him and stuff, right? On the feet, he rarely is losing a stand-up exchange. He has good leg kicks, good outside kicks. He kicks from both stances. He's, mixes them, head and body sort of thing. He has really good distance management here as well. So in a pure striking match, I find it hard to give David Pinas a big price tag as a big favorite because he's not the type of guys that are exploiting Almeida in grappling and getting him down to the ground. It would shock me if Pinas comes out and lands 5 takedowns, 12+ minutes of control. That's just not what we've seen on tape, right? He's going to come out, he's going to try to land that 1-2, and that's basically all he has is speed, athleticism. I think he's going to be like 12 years younger and just that 1-2 down the middle. Now, if you're going to tell me, a young, inexperienced, striker is going to, really outclass and outpoint Cesar Almeida because he has a 1-2 and because he's a little bit faster, I have a hard time believing that, right? So I think that it's going to be strictly stand up in a strictly stand up match. I'm going to favor the long time experienced kickboxer with way more weapons, the proven cardio to go 5 rounds that's never been put away and finished, over a guy that's sort of I'm not going to say round 1 or bust because we haven't seen him go later, but I just have a hard time of seeing Pinas outstriking, outpointing him on his way to a decision. Yeah, could he land and put him out there? Sure, but he's never been finished. So I kind of like the price tag here on Cesar Almeida, plus 185, plus 190. You're getting a decorated kickboxer in a kickboxing match against somebody that doesn't sort of new to MMA, right? So for me, the value plays itself. I'm going to go with Cesar Almeida on the dog shot.
Bold, my friend. That is a bold call for the underdog there. I kind of love it, though. Like I said, I do also tend to like fading these kids when they get that first big step up in competition. Shout out to my boy Dan Levy from Half the Battle. He calls it that vet lesson, the tour of the octagon, if you will. And we see that time and time and time again. The casuals may call it a fraud check. There's a huge difference between a veteran lesson and a fraud check. And I think a lot of these guys get that vet lesson first. So I wouldn't be at all shocked if that did happen in this spot. And unless Pinas just completely unravels down the stretch in this fight, usually Cesar is a decision guy. So I kind of like the over. I like the decision. Again, I could see a late finish if Pinas kind of the floor falls out. He's not used to the third round. He's never been the nail like that before. That could happen. But I'm glad you kind of agree with me on that over 1.5 lean. I think that's probably where I'll look if I'm going to put any action on this particular fight.
I just will add that, I like the 1.5 because Cesar Almeida doesn't put himself into danger, right? And I think that he's cognizant of the 1-2. He knows how to defend it well. He stays way outside in kicking range where he can kick more than punch. So Pinas really has to close that distance, enter the pocket, then land the 1-2. And Almeida just doesn't sit in the pocket and let you tee off on him, right? So that's where I think the over 1.5 comes in. But the over 1.5 is sort of tied to Cesar Almeida. They're sort of one and the same. If you're taking the under 1.5, you're sort of taking Pinas. So that's where it's sort of like you can take the over or Cesar or both, or take Pinas and the under. So sort of thing.
Yeah, I see. For me, I'll take the over and I'll bet on both guys. You know what I mean? Don't care who wins it. Get me 1.5 rounds, then I don't even have to sweat the outcome. That's how I'll look at it. We are 4 fights in. Art, we have 425 live viewers.
Wow, good job, bro.
So
the king is back.
When I was a kid, man, I went through a phase of about 6 years where my shoe size increased by 1 every single birthday. And it feels like that's what we're doing here. Every single fight, guys. And I'm not kidding. I've got a little ticker right here on StreamYard that shows me who's all tuning in, guys. We're gaining 100 viewers every single fight. So welcome in, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. We really do appreciate it. Tracy Cortez takes on Wang Tong. And yes, I did check the video. I did check the tape. I looked to my man, John Anik, to learn how to, pronounce some of these names. And I know it's spelled Kong Wang for those of us who are white, but it's pronounced Wang Tong, apparently. So I'll try to be respectful and say her name correctly. I like Wang Tong, Art. I've liked her a lot since she got to the UFC. She's on a 4-1 run, 3-fight win streak. She is 34 years old and kind of similar to Cesar Almeida last time you mentioned his claim to fame. Thank you for mentioning that, by the way, his fights with Alex Pereira. Wang Tong's whole thing is she fought Valentina Shevchenko. And that was her whole purpose, right? They were trying to do the Alex Pereira thing here with Wang, get her into the UFC, get her feet wet with MMA, and then give somebody for Valentina to fight because she's just kind of cleaned out the division 2 or 3 times and is looking for super fights, etc. Unfortunately, that got derailed when she completely shit the bed against Gabriella. She got hit with that head kick, wobbled, got her back taken, got choked out. Ever since then, she seems to have a little bit more respect for her opponents, man. She's coming forward, but it's a little bit more controlled. Her first couple UFC fights, she was disrespectful and just came forward with reckless abandon, but boy, did it work for her in her UFC debut.
It's a lot of output.
Oh my God! One and done. That did not.
She has plus power for women's MMA, man. She's got unique power for women's MMA, but for her last 3 fights in a row, it's been decisions. I took her to finish Ariane Lipski because I know Lipski is a little on the chinny side. She's a little wilty sometimes, and she ended up going the full 15 minutes with her too because she kind of learned her lesson. She ate that head kick, she got her back taken, she got humbled, and now she's kind of a little more point strikey than she used to be as she's climbing the ladder. That power is still there, but she's definitely not overreaching on it. I worry a little bit about her durability. We've seen her get cracked a couple of times. She's wobbled a little bit a couple of times outside the one where she actually got finished. So I do worry about her longevity-wise, but as she's climbing the ladder, I do think she's a very interesting prospect, and she's definitely dangerous. 84% takedown defense in her last fight against Eduardo Mora. She did get taken down 3 times, and she did give up 8 minutes worth of control, but overall that 84% is a very strong takedown defense rating for somebody thinking, hey, I'll just wrestle her to death. And that's probably what Tracy's going to do. Tracy's 12-3, 32 years old, 2-2 in her last 4 fights. My man Santino is actually apparently coming out of retirement to corner her here. He already called it, man. He called it quits. He's not working with Fight Ready anymore. He's not a coach anymore. He hung it up. But apparently Tracy talked him into one last ride here for this one. So looking forward to that. But she's training in Mexico City, man. Did my Instagram stalking to check out what's going on there. And apparently she's out in Mexico City, which is good elevation. It's good, good for the lungs, good cardio work, stuff like that. I like a lot of the teams out there, like Intram's doing really well. So there's some definite good training partners you can work with in Mexico City. She bounced back against, she lost her fight against Rose Namajunas, bounced back big with a win over Vivi Araujo, and I was really impressed with her in that particular fight. She's a very strong grappler. She's got good cardio. She's got decent boxing. It's nothing to really write home about, but it is improving, and she's tough. She's tough. She's a decision machine. She doesn't finish too many people. The big issue for me, Art, is that she doesn't move her head. Even though her hands have improved, she's got a nice counter left hand now. She's not overly fast. Like when she explodes and she goes, she definitely does have some speed, but just generally speaking, she's a little on the slower side. She doesn't flow well in the striking, right? And that's something that Wang absolutely flows when she walks around that cage. But I worry about the lack of mobility and lack of head movement here against a striker. It feels like she's got to be the bully, man. Yeah, Jasmine Jasudavicius kind of took over that fight late when Tracy Cortez started slowing down a little bit. She got bullied by Erin Blanchfield. She basically got broken in that fight against Erin Blanchfield. And Rose, even as that fight extended and got deeper and deeper, she kind of showed the championship caliber, right? Those levels as the fight went a little bit deeper. Tracy looked like she started really well against Aaron, but by the end of round one, man, her face was all busted up and swollen. Like Aaron started finding the timing and landing big shots. And that's concerning for me because while I think a lot of Aaron Blanchfield, she is nowhere near Wang when it comes to the striking levels. So if you're getting busted up by a girl who can kind of box, but not really, and doesn't really have power, like, that's going to be a problem here, man. She had Vivi in a really, really deep choke. And Vivi Araujo is a very talented grappler herself, so she didn't end up tapping to it. If she gets anywhere near something like that on Cong, this fight's over. So I feel like there's definitely grappling, finishing upside for Tracy. If she can find the back of Wang Tong, then I think she can choke her out for sure. But with that 84% takedown defense, I kind of feel like Tracy's going to have to hurt Wang on the feet and then kind of parlay that into grappling to really have success. And I kind of don't see that happening, man. This is a coin flip. And Art, you need to talk some sense into me. Help me out here. Help me find my way because I don't get it. I feel like Wang Tong should be a much larger favorite here. And I actually came into this. I did the tape. I broke it down. And I was like, if you give me plus 250 on Tracy Cortez, maybe we take a dart. Maybe we take a shot here. And then I looked at the line and I was like, the fuck? So I was not expecting a coin flip. I was not expecting a pick 'em. I'm definitely looking at the Wang Tong side of things, man. What do you see here in this fight?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that, and I too was very surprised by the line, but I can tell you what exactly it is. It's basically recency bias with Kong Wang's last performance there against Eduardo Moira, and we'll go right into that fight there. And you touched on her takedown defense coming into that fight. She had not given up a takedown on 7 takedowns, but Ariane Lipski, Bruna Brazil, Gabriela Fernandez, they're not the best grapplers or more strikers, right? Eduardo Moira, she attempted multiple takedowns and so there's a couple of things here. One is that the first takedown in the first round for Moira was like an inside trip or like a weird kind of trip takedown. She got the takedowns. She failed on 9 of them. She only got 3 takedowns. So even then, the takedown defense was pretty good. In the second round, Eduardo Moira's takedown was like a lat drop to a fireman carry to like a scramble on bottom and then to get on top, right? So very creative takedown to get Kong Wang down. Traditionally, if you're attacking her by like single legs or double legs, she has pretty good takedown defense, good balance, good sprawls, all that stuff. Very hard to shoot on her. But again, Moira pulls the tricks out of the bag, gets her down to the ground, and then again, she controls her on the ground for multiple minutes. Like you said, 8+ minutes of control there. And this is where this line is coming in because people just think that Tracy Cortez can replicate that type of game plan, get Kong Wang down and just ride her to a decision and stuff, right? A couple of things though, if you go back to the Moira fight, Moira had Kong Wang deep into a rear naked choke. I don't know how she fought out of it. It was way under the chin. Kong Wang ends up fighting out of it and ends up again winning a decision, right? So this fight easily just comes down to the takedown defense of Kong Wang. If she can stuff the takedowns of Tracy Cortez, she's gonna win. If Tracy Cortez can get takedowns and keep top control, she's going to win. So it's basically just black and white, grappler versus striker matchup. I'm going to categorize it that because, like you said, Tracy Cortez on the feet, getting outstruck by Aaron Blanchfield's not great. Rose Namajunas is okay, right? But Jasmine's not a striker at all. So she was able to just outstrike Jasmine on the feet, which is, again, fine, right? But somebody like Kong Wang's the easiest, best striker that she's fought here. So I kind of see this fight going very similar to the Rose Namajunas fight, where Tracy Cortez was really struggling to track Rose down, to try to get in on a takedown, to try to even close the distance. Rose was just outpointing her. At some point she lands that right hand that knocks that eyelash off and stuff like that, right? And so I think that Tracy Cortez is really going to struggle here to close that distance, to land strikes. She needs takedowns. She needs top control, right? And, the thing you talked about, Lipski and Kong Wang, if you go back and watch that, Lipski's categorized mostly as a striker, right? Really good striker. Her weakness tends to be on the ground. And Kong Wang was basically brutalizing her on the feet. Should have finished her multiple times, ends up going to decision. But that was all Kong Wang.
Bad beat, man.
There. And that was all leg kicks from Kong Wang. She brutalized the lead leg. I had Lipski, limping on that one leg, right? So I think those leg kicks are going to come into play here for Kong Wang. If Tracy Cortez can't get that takedown early, those takedowns are going to come harder and harder when she can't put as much weight on that front foot to get the takedowns. And even if she gets the takedowns, I do think that Moira has better BJJ. I think Cortez, again, has to sort of like lay and pray her way to a decision here. I don't
Yeah.
really see a finish. I don't really see her KOing her on the feet or knocking her down. Even submission, I don't even think that her submission equity is that high here. So I think that it's all Kong Wang on the feet. I think that she defends the takedowns pretty well, or at least gets back up. Maybe there's a chance, like I'm scared to take the -3.5 because I think at some point Tracy Cortez can get a takedown, maybe get 2-3 minutes of control, and then Kong Wang gets back up and has to do damage and stuff like that. But given this price tag, I have to go with Kong Wang. One thing I want to note, and again, this is the best price that you're ever going to get on Kong Wang so far, is that she started the road to UFC at -1,800, then going to the UFC against Victoria Leonard at -1,000. She was -1,300 against Gabby Fernandez, even against Bruna Brazil -300. Lipsky was -700, and Mora was -300. Now we're getting her pick'em against Tracy Cortez, who's reliant on the takedowns here. I kind of think this is a gift line, and I think this is more of a recency bias thing because they see, holes in Kong Wang's game. But again, the takedowns from Moira were a lot more creative than what I've seen for Cortez. And if she struggles with the takedown, I think she's going to get picked apart on the feet. Would not surprise me, though, to see Kong Wang finish her. Tracy Cortez did get dropped by a jab from Rose. And again, Wang's a better striker than everybody that Cortez has fought. And I think with the leg kicks and slowing down a little bit, yeah, she's training in Mexico City. I get that. But the leg kicks having her limp around, I can definitely see Kong Wang finishing late. So I'm hesitant on taking fight goes because I think that Kong Wang has a lot of finishing upside, but wouldn't surprise me if she wins a decision here either.
Okay. Yeah. So you and I are kind of feeling a little bit the same on that one. I like the short price tag. I've kind of gone to war with Wang a couple of times, and I really was looking forward to. You know what? I was looking forward to something juicy here, but I think I need to just take the buy low opportunity instead. Don't get fancy, take what they give you, that kind of situation. So I'm with you, man. I like Wang Tong as well. And sorry, Tracy, I'm team fight ready. You guys know that. I wish I could. I wish I could hang with Santino here on this one, but we got to go the other way, unfortunately. We'll never forget Tracy giving us one of the all-time great moments in MMA when she weighed in and cut her hair off and stood on the scale with it afterwards. That was classic. Yeah, it does sound like wonton. Sorry about that, Andy. Let's see. Green King 220 says, "Yeah, you make good points from the Rose fight, probably stay away." And I think that's fair. But at the end of the day, Art, I do think that and this is just I need to switch hats here for a minute. I feel like Tracy's close to retiring, man. I don't know what it is. Like Santino hung it up on her. She had the whole thing with Alex Pereira go sideways. Like it really feels to me like she could be kind of early close to retirement, even though it doesn't feel like over the course of her career as an MMA fighter, she's close to retiring. Like I really could see her hanging it up sooner than later, just kind of gassing out, not being able to get over that hump, not being able to beat the contender level fighters. I think this could be a fight where if she loses, it wouldn't shock me one bit if she laid the gloves down. If she wins, obviously she's on that hunt for the title, but I kind of feel like that's floating around in the back of her head, even if she's not saying it. And that's just, I have nothing to base that off. Total suspicions, but I kind of feel like that vibe is coming a little bit.
I could see it. It wouldn't surprise me, like you said, right? I found it entertaining. The whole stuff with Alex Pereira came out after, and basically pointing her at like she's like basically batshit crazy. That hot craziness scale. She's at a 10 crazy, and that's what happened with Ortega and Alex Pereira
To
and all
fuck
that
around
stuff.
and find out.
Yeah. So, would she retire? Yeah, maybe. She probably make a lot more money on OnlyFans and go that OnlyFans route if she wants to do that. But yeah, maybe she has some more fights in her. I think it's more of a mental thing for her, like if she has that fight and drive in her, like you said. But if she comes off a loss, might be harder to come back from.
For sure. All right, man. I probably will be joining you on Wang Tong. It looks like we got a good number, so I will get there -112. That's probably a bet I'll lock in sooner rather than later, guys. Let's keep it rolling. 538 live viewers, everybody. Welcome into the show. UFC 329, Kai Kamaka takes on Luke Riley. Kai Kamaka is an interesting case, Art. He's a guy that was in the UFC previously. For those of you guys who don't know, his record is 17-8-1. He's 30 years old. He's training out of Extreme Couture, and he's one of the rare situations where somebody actually got cut by the UFC organization. They fought their way back in. He went 1-2-1 in his original run in the UFC. He had a split decision and he had that draw. It's really tough, man. I felt like he showed well. His fights were entertaining. So when they cut him, I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. He went off to Bellator. He actually did pretty well. He was in the PFL. He did okay there too. He's a good fighter. He's a really good fighter. But the thing with Kai Kamaka is he can't get over the hump. He's one of these guys that fights close with everybody. Like even the Brendan Loughnane fight that he had in PFL, Loughnane was like their guy. He was like their champion over in the PFL. And Kai Kamaka put it on him for a couple of rounds. I don't know what happens. He just kind of, they figure him out. They figure out the timing. He falls apart. It's a mental thing. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, but he's in a ton of really close fights. He fights both up and down to his competition. He's coming off a split decision win against Dakota Hope, and he's got 6 split decisions over the course of his entire career. So this is not a recent thing. This has been going on always. He's just always in close fights. And yeah, Andy says he's the ultimate decisioner, and that's true. The ultimate decisionator. He's got 19 fights, guys, that go to decision. Kai Kamaka is incredibly tough. He's hard to get out of there, and he also doesn't seem to have the killer instinct to finish his opponents. I've seen him have people hurt more often than not, and he just doesn't know how to finish up and actually get them out of there. So then he ends up in another close fight type situation. So just a guy, you know what I mean? In football, right? The Jags, that's what they call him. He's just a guy, I feel like. He's filling a roster spot. The UFC has got this brutal schedule, quick turnarounds. I'm glad he's back. He puts on fun fights. He's entertaining, but I'm not expecting a whole lot out of him. Luke Riley on the other side of this thing is 13-0. He's 27 years old. He's a Cage Warriors prospect, and so far he's 2-0 in the UFC. He was actually supposed to fight on Dana White's Contender Series, but they said, you know what, kid, let's bring you on in. Let's give you a shot, and boy, is it a good thing they did that.
Repeats. What a shot.
He went on to TKO Bogdan Grad in that fight in the second round. He's coming off of a win over Michael Aswell, which in hindsight, man, I was way too high on Michael Aswell. I thought that dude was going to be pretty good. He let me down big time in his last fight. But regardless, Luke Riley seems to have everything that you're looking for, man. Against Bogdan Grad, he got taken down early in that fight, and he just got smothered. I was like, oh boy, another Cage Warriors fraud check. This guy's not ready for the UFC. These Cage Warriors prospects kind of suck ass. He stayed calm. He defended well. He ate some big shots. After getting mauled in round 1, he stood up in round 2 and immediately flipped the script on that fight. Ends up winning by TKO. Then it's like, okay, so this kid's got a chin. He's got heart. He's okay with being the nail if he needs to be. He's not a front runner. He doesn't have to be on the front foot the entire fight to be able to win it. These are all really, really good signs. Good footwork, stays on the outside, kind of gets you chasing him and then unloads. And boy, does he have fast hands. Really quick, clean boxing in the pocket. He's got good balance to avoid takedowns for the most part. And like I mentioned before, a good get-up game. I like this kid. I'll be honest with you, Art. I've completely been sold in these last 2 fights, and I know that recency bias is a bitch, but I like Luke Riley now. And Kai Kamaka is the type of guy that if this fight is close, he is not getting that split decision. So grab your tinfoil hats, boys. If this fight goes the distance, Kai Kamaka is not getting his hand raised. It's that kind of a spot. We've seen it before. Minus 290 on Luke Riley, plus 235 on Kai Kamaka. If you are so interested and you want to do that like plus 3.5 spread thing where your fighter can lose a 29-28 decision and your bet still cashes, I think Kai Kamaka is an okay pick for that kind of a situation, right? Kai Kamaka at plus 3.5 is minus 105. I think you could play it that way if you wanted to get greasy, but I think more often than not, I'm just going to side with Luke Riley here on this one, Art. A blue chip prospect on a big fight card with a number next to his name, a number on the fight card, a pay-per-view card, that kind of situation. They're looking to make this kid shine. So I will bet I will bet Luke Riley handles Kai Kamaka. Even if it's a 29-28, I don't care. Minus 290, that's the side for me.
Yeah, I tend to agree here. You talked about Kai Kamaka coming back, and used to be in the UFC, got cut. I do agree that it was unfairly cut. Good competition, looking back, right? And then goes on the regionals, has some good results in PFL and Bellator and stuff like that. Coming into that last fight, fighting Dakota Hope. I think he was short notice. I can't remember, but he was fighting up a weight class. We hadn't seen him in a while, so I ended up passing that one. But I did end up getting Kai Kamaka on the live line. I remember him looking pretty good, pretty fast, and stuff like that. So doesn't look like he lost a step in terms of the speed. You talked about the durability, right? It's very hard to put him away, but that he just fights close and stuff like that, right? On the Riley side, I was on Riley against as well, and as well as pretty good as well. But I like you said, I like everything I see from Riley. He can do it all. He can get up. He can defend the takedowns. He can strike. He has good volume. I do remember having Riley and as well significant strikes because both guys put on a ton of volume in terms of significant strikes. And I think this is where that plays out here, right? It's just the volume, the pressure of Luke Riley, the more upside with the power. Like it wouldn't surprise me if he found a finish, but it most likely goes to decision here. But yeah, I like Luke Riley based on everything that we've seen. He does look like he has a promising prospect. I don't know if Kai Kamaka's that step up that he needs to really get his name into the hat here. But I do think that it is a favorable matchup here. I don't think that Kai Kamaka is going to grapple too often here. So Luke Riley gets his striking match that he needs and wants to do, and he gets to really show off the striking game here. So yeah, I'll take Luke Riley. Maybe some sort of creative prop or something like that, but I don't mind his money line as well.
Okay. All right. We are seeing eye to eye there on that one. It is chalk season. A lot of these pay-per-view cards do tend to be a little bit on the chalky side of things. And especially when you've got elite prospects coming up, that's the way we tend to ride with it, right? Next up, you guys, we have got a returning champion here. Cody Brundage takes on Adrian Yanez in a really weird fight, man. I know I always say interesting, right? You guys, I threw you a curveball there on that one. These fights are all
The
interesting. I'm
curveball
a
was the
junkie.
Brundage. The
Oh,
Cody
right.
Brundage was
That's
fighting.
absolutely no. No, this one's intriguing to me here, Art, because I looked at it and just immediately was like, oh yeah, of course. Easy click on Adrian Yanez. He's a minus 400 favorite right now. Cody Brundage is a plus 320 underdog coming back the other direction. And I was like, yeah, obviously it's Adrian Yanez. Then I dug into the tape, man. And I was like, ooh, it might not be that easy. Adrian is 17-6-1. He's 32 years old. He's won 3-1 in his last 4 fights. And right off the bat, right there, that's a red flag, man. A minus 400 when you're 1-3-1 in your last 4 is like, okay, like we got to talk about this. Pump the brakes. He's coming off a rough split decision against Daniel Marcos and then a draw against Ricky Simon. Now, the split decision against Marcos, I felt really bad for the guy. I thought he won that one. But it was close. It was a close fight. And he dropped the draw against Ricky Simon after losing the first 2 rounds of that fight. Man, Ricky was in the driver's seat. And then Yanez found the button, dropped him in the 3rd round. He got 2 judges to file him a 10-8 round. And so that fight ends up being a draw. He couldn't quite get the finish there. And, he could have gotten a 10-9, right? From a judge that saw it a little bit differently and just lost instead. So a really weird final to that one. Both guys were beaten up. Both guys were bleeding all over the place. It was a really fun fight to watch, frankly, but not overly impressive to me, especially considering the recent form of Ricky Simon. He hasn't looked like the marauding killer he was before. He hasn't looked like the nonstop cardio junkie that he was before. So fighting closely with a guy like that, I was a little sussed about on that one, man. He does have big power. He's a big hitter. He's got a really fast jab. He's got nice footwork. He struggled with the kicks of Martinez, so that's something to watch out for. But he does have good pull counters. He hurt Rob Font early. He hurts pretty much everybody, man. This kid's got serious God-given power. But when you extend the fight over 15 minutes, when he's not smoking people out there early, he does seem to struggle. And it seems like his mental game is kind of crumpled a little bit. He doesn't have that reckless, I'm going to go take your face off type of approach in these fights anymore. And frankly, that's what I think was winning him the fights early on. Yanez has a 75% takedown defense. He did get taken down on 2 of 5 attempts by Ricky Simon. Ricky got about 5 minutes of control time there. But I want to remind you guys what Adrian Yanez is capable of at his peak.
Hard and be okay with touching and then setting it up.
Oh, big right, Salvador's down.
That's it. I mean, he's
Now, he did end up, again, going on to TKO in that spot there. He's got big power. He can drop pretty much anybody when he lands pure like that. Cody Garbrandt, former UFC champion, 15-7, 34 years old. He is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. A very, very smooth boxer, massive chin concerns. My boy TJ Dillashaw took everything this man had. His durability is gone after those back-to-back knockouts he suffered, unfortunately. One of the most quick and athletic fighters we've ever seen. I mean, the only guy to ever outspeed, out footwork Dom Cruz when he was champion. But another guy who seems like he's lost his confidence a little bit, Art. He's really relying on his wrestling. Now, that's where his whole career started, was a wrestler. He learned how to strike and then figured out, oh, shit, I'm fast. So that worked out real well for him. But now he's kind of fallen back on it. And he's hanging on for dear life in some of these fights. He doesn't want to engage as much anymore. He's way more low volume. In his last fight against Long Zhao, he landed 28 of 54 total strikes, man. 28. That's a incredibly low number for this weight class. That's crazy. His wins are Brian Boom Kelleher, friend of the show. Shout out, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Love the guy, but he flared out of the UFC a long time ago. Trevin Jones, he got cut from the UFC a long time ago. Long Zhao, a road to UFC fighter who, in my opinion, Art, it feels like the UFC is lowering the bar to the point that Cody can finally get his ass a win. And that's what happened in his last fight. He finally got somebody he could get by, but it wasn't pretty. It's ugly, man. I do want to remind you guys the glory days of Cody Garbrandt real quick, though, before I kick it over to Art. Just one of the dumbest KOs I've ever seen in my life, man. I had an over 1.5 in that fight because I was banking on Rafael Assunção's durability, and he did that shit at the bell at the end of the first round. When Cody Garbrandt goes, that power is something. That speed is something. Art, am I talking crazy, or is Cody Garbrandt at plus 320 the side here against what appears to be an inflated, unconfident, maybe in too deep Adrian Yanez? What do you think, man?
I mean, that Assunção fight was what, 6 years ago. The Dom
Long
Cruz
time
fight
ago.
was like 10 years ago, right? So he's a shell of it for himself and stuff, right? And I don't know. I agree that the price is kind of wide, and there's a couple of things that here that do it for me, right? And you talked about the fragileness or the chin of Cody Garbrandt, right? And we've all known it. Like once he gets touched, he goes down, and that's it and stuff, right? And coming into the Long Zhao fight, I think a lot of people are on Yang Zhao because of that chin issues for Garbrandt. And, Yang Zhao hits hard and all that stuff, right? But somehow Cody Garbrandt eats a clean head kick and just continues to go on in round 1. And I think he ate like a spinning elbow or something like that. So I don't know where his chin is at anymore. After seeing him take those big shots there, surviving to a decision, right? That was, I guess kind of hopeful for Garbrandt that maybe his chin is kind of back. But you touched on it as well. His output has always been somewhat of a concern, right? You talked about the 28 significant strikes. Did you know that he's not surpassed 28 significant strikes for the last 5 years? It's been 5 years since he's landed more than 28 significant strikes in a single fight.
Wow.
And that's
I did not
insane,
realize
right?
that.
Yeah, that's insane in terms of his volume and stuff, right? He wants to circle on the outside. I think it is a chin issue thing where he doesn't really trust the chin, so he doesn't really want to step into the pocket and unload. He's more content with just staying on the outside, picking his shots, pitter patter sort of thing. I just don't think he gets that with Adrian Yanez. Yanez is going to force the action. He's going to force in there. He has really good hands. He's not as big of a kicker as maybe Garbrandt needs, or so maybe Garbrandt can stick and move and maybe kick on the outside. But Yanez's boxing, his hands is really good. I will say that I had Ricky Simón in that fight, but it was more along the grappling and the wrestling that I thought Ricky Simón would get the wrestling off. And he did get some takedowns, but Yanez did show some good get-up game and get back up. There is an asterisk in that fight as well, is that Ricky Simón fought Cameron Smotherman, who is training partners and coach of Yanez. You saw Yanez in that corner of Smotherman. So I think when that fight came across his desk, he's like, yeah, I know how to beat him. So they had, multiple training camps on Ricky Simone. But again, Ricky Simone, you talked about it, was up 2-0 going into that third round. And he would have lost, but Yanez, gets a knockdown with like 7 seconds left and then follows up with some ground and pound. Two out of the 3 judges give him a 10-8 so he can get the draw. Otherwise, he loses that fight there, right? So it's hard to lay super juice, but I think this is more Cody Garbrandt related. Does Cody Garbrandt have a path? Yes, but it's a very close, greasy split decision, or it's Yanez kicking Garbrandt in the balls multiple times where he can win a fight. So those are the only real 2 ways that I can see him winning, right? If you don't know, the way what I'm referencing is Garbrandt is coming off of a decision win on Long Zhao, but that's after Long Zhao kicked him in the balls 4 times and lost 2 points. So Garbrandt ends up winning a 28-27 or 29-28 sort of thing because Long Zhao loses 2 points and loses the decision. I was able to get Garbrandt at plus 500 in the third round before the point deduction, all that stuff. But that was the only way he squeaks that win out. Like you said, he's lost that power, so he doesn't really have knockout upside. Can he grapple? Sure, he probably goes to the grappling here and the wrestling. I just don't know if he's holding him down. If Ricky Simone wasn't able to really get that sort of thing going here, so I gotta like Adrian Yanez. Maybe I'll touch up maybe something on the total with the assumption that maybe Cody Garbrandt's chin is back. But that's about it. I don't think I can lay the juice on the favorite. I don't really want to touch Garbrandt at big dog odds either. So I might get creative with the total or just pass it altogether.
Okay, I feel you, man. It's one of those fights where I just don't want to touch it. It's dog or pass from a betting perspective, but I don't know that I can pull the trigger on Cody Garbrandt in the year of our Lord 2026. That just seems like a recipe for disaster. The over 1.5 is about minus 190, which feels, I mean, like I lean over 1.5, but again, that price is just like kind of what are we doing here? If Cody's chin is still an issue, I think Adrian Yanez hits harder than Long Zhao does. And if Cody is winning this fight, I kind of think it's double tapping a dude like Adrian Yanez. Like if he's just faster and is able to abuse that speed advantage, or if Yanez kind of corners him the way that, like, if you recall the Pedro Munoz fight where he kind of forced him into a gunfight, like I feel like this fight could be over early. So I don't like any of those numbers, you guys. This is the definition of a fireball and popcorn fight. Grab a drink, grab a snack, make sure you're on the couch for it. Don't do it during the fight, right? Before the fight. But yeah, there you go. There's the bottle. There he is. Make sure you do it before the fight starts because you don't want to miss this fight. But it's one that you probably don't need to have betting action on unless you've got maybe a little bit more conviction than either of us up here on panel. We're up and over 600 live viewers, ladies and gentlemen. That is what is up. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, it's good to have McGregor back in the UFC. Everybody's here to watch fights. That's what's up. Do me a favor, hit the like button. Please check out my boy Art. His information is in the description below. One of the sharpest guys I know, one of the best live better I think I've ever seen in my life. Give him a follow. Get subscribed. We do this damn thing every single week. And shout out to you, my new TikTok people hanging out with us, watching on TikTok over there. Appreciate you guys being here. First time. All right, guys, it is time. Big debut on the big fight card. We have been talking about it for years. Gabriel Steveson is finally here in the UFC. Man, I'll be honest with you, Art, I almost didn't think it was going to happen. Like, we've talked about it for so long. This guy was like, yeah, after I'm done wrestling, I'll probably go to the UFC. Then he's making out with John Jones or whatever those guys did. I never thought it was going to happen. I kind of was like, yeah, he's not serious. Well, here he is. Dude is 3-0. And they're giving him his shot. He's fighting Elisha Ellison, 5-2, 29 years old. His UFC debut, Art, was a Dana White's Contender Series fight. And I don't mean that like, oh, it was a bad fight. No, like, they ran out of fights. They had a bunch of cancellations, and they took a Dana White's Contender Series fight, and they moved it to Saturday. It was literally a Dana White's Contender Series fight, and they said, fuck it. Both of you guys will get in here, just get a contract, sign on the dotted line. We'll have you fight on Saturday instead. It was bad. It was rough. He got the city kickboxing treatment, got handled by the guy he was fighting in there, pulled guard at one point, ended up on his back and got TKO'd. It was really kind of gross as far as your first showing in the UFC. He's a big guy. He's a strong guy. And I think he just kind of mauled everybody on the regional scene. He kind of just shoves people up against the cage, drags people to the ground, big power. He was too much to handle. And then he got to step up in competition. And when that shit didn't work, he didn't know what to do. He doesn't have the skill set that he needs to fight at the UFC level. And he's not a Hokit. He's not a freak of nature where he's just that much faster. He's that much stronger where it's going to continue working at the UFC level. So he's coming off a brutal KO in his UFC debut. And now he's getting thrown by the UFC to Gabe Steveson. Gabe, if you guys don't know, 26 years old, 3-0 as a professional MMA fighter, but he is a John Jones pet project. This guy's an Olympic gold medalist. He's a tank. He's an incredible wrestler, and he's kind of got the Daniel Cormier thing going on, where he's got that real husky build. He's a little short, but it's got that God-given raw power that comes with that wrestling frame, that explosivity, right? The way those guys know how to control their bodies. He doesn't have any UFC fights. I found a clip for you guys. I'm going to warn you, it's very short because I'm not sure if they're going to copyright strike me or not. So I'm going to play it for you and risk it on this one. But this is what I could find to show you guys what Gabe is capable of, at least at the low level.
And landing on Steveson, and Steveson just punched.
I mean, he hits that left hand. The dude is out on his feet, but he's already in on the double leg before the carcass even hits the ground. He's really explosive. He's really fast. He hits really hard. Art, I don't know that he's going to be a UFC champion. Obviously, these guys that have the back class, the Henry Cejudos, right? Like, if you've got the Olympic medal, you probably know what it takes to gather the other skills you need to be UFC champion. Maybe he gets there, right? I don't want to poo-poo him. He's 26 years old. This could be, the bluest of blue chip prospects we've ever seen. This guy could be a UFC champion in a couple of years. We'll see. We'll see how he develops. But this fight, no line is wide enough. He's a 28-1 favorite right now, and you could set this number at whatever you felt like. He's not losing. What do you make of this fight? Poor Elisha Ellison is going to have his second KO loss in as many UFC fights, and that just kind of is what it is.
What if I told you that this is the best line you've gotten on Gable Steveson? So, in his previous fights, he was like, yeah, minus 2,400, minus 8,000. He wrestled Alexander Romanov, from the UFC. He was minus 18,000 in that fight. So just an absolute beast, when it comes to wrestling for Gable Steveson. And yeah, like first thing I saw when I'm watching him, he does remind me of Cormier, but like 10 times faster and hits a lot harder and actually like uses the frame a little bit more, right? And I think that he's going to be a real problem here at heavyweight for these guys because not a lot of heavyweights can grapple. And you look at the champion, Cyril Gane at the top, Aspinall, I think he like maul those guys, right? If he can get there, and you think he might be on a fast track to get there, so wouldn't surprise me, to see him there. But first we got to start. There's obviously get your foot wet, get into the door, feed him a couple of cans, and that's exactly what this is, right? They flew Elisha Ellison across the world to fight Brando Pericic at home in Australia, and now they're bringing him to cannon fodder Gable Steveson here, right? And does he have a chance? Yes, he throws hard, he hits hard. He sort of comes out with a flurry and throws wild, sort of like the Ryan Gandra where he just goes all out and throws. Could he clip him? Yeah, sure. So but I think his win equity is probably like Ellison KO within the first 2 minutes. And if it gets outside of that, or if he gets taken down at any point, then he's probably toast and stuff, right? So you're looking at a puncher's chance within the first minute or two where he can land before he gets taken down and mauled. But even then, I saw Gable Steveson. Obviously, there's only 3 fights. He showed one of them. That fight was only like 15 seconds. Total fight time, I think, is like 5 minutes or something like that. But there is one fight where he did get like, he was fighting a BJJ guy and he got roundhouse kicked to the head and he actually ate it pretty well. So now you're getting like a really high level wrestler with devastating power and that can take a punch. It's a decent recipe, decent resume here, right? So I don't even know how live Ellison is to land that knockout punch here, right? So it's hard. We're spending a lot of time breaking down the minus 3,000 favorite. I think Gable Steveson just mauls him. I think he takes him down, because he can. It's one of those things that maybe he's on the pay-per-view and he wants to show off maybe some of the striking that he's worked on, and maybe he doesn't like maul him right away. You just never know with the fight IQ or the game plan. But if he comes out and just wants to wrestle, he'll take him down and he'll smash him on the ground. The only thing that you really have to consider is that I might take a small stab on submission just because it's there. I've seen him go for the arm triangle a couple of times. I even saw him go for a Kimura there. So the submission's not out of the question, especially with, again, a guy like Ellison that has zero ground game whatsoever to begin with. You're looking at minus 300 for KO. You might get some good plus money for submission. You know, you got to get creative when he's minus 3,000. I'm never going to play him money line, and I'm not advocating a bet on the dog. So now what are you going to play? You're going to lay the juice on KO, or you're going to play some props, or you're going to pass. So I tend to like look around, try to find something creative, and maybe find something in the submission realm there. But otherwise, it's just, yeah, don't blink. The fight's going to end up fast. Round one is probably minus 500. I don't even think there's a line yet. But Steveson, round one, probably minus 500, minus 800 in that range.
Absolutely. Should be a showcase for Steveson. I'm not expecting any surprises here at all whatsoever. If he wants to wrestle, he can wrestle. As soon as he gets on top, whatever he wants, man. If he wants to triangle choke the guy or arm triangle him, he can. If he wants to pound him out, he can. The reason I felt like it was okay for us to spend a little bit of extra time on this one, yes, for betting, it's not super exciting, but for the people who don't know Steveson, this will be their introduction to him. I felt like it warranted us kind of chatting about him for a minute. So thank you for joining me there on that one. My man Chris in the chat with a bit of a hot take here, the over 1.5. That would be interesting. I kind of feel like it's under 1.5, but we'll see. Real quick, guys, shout out Spectation Sports. A lot of you guys know I work with Spectation Sports. They are the fastest growing regional scene show basically on the planet. They are hoovering up regional MMA promotions. They're all going to be under one banner, and you're going to have a lot of guys who are on this season's Ultimate Fighter and Dana White's Contender Series. They're going to be coming from these shows. In fact, on Saturday, they've got Rough, which is right here in my backyard, local Arizona promotion, and a lot of Red Hawk guys are going to be on those shows. Now, you are going to be given a treat. I can hook you up with 20% off, you guys. 20% off when you use promo code DieHard and you sign up for Spectation Sports. We are going to have good shows left, right, and center. So if you're an MMA junkie and you just absolutely need more fighting action, this is where you need to be. If you need something to watch before, after the UFC, the LFA prelims are on Spectation Sports, you guys. So another big show that they're doing. This is the only place that you can catch them. So on Fridays, there's shows. Sometimes there are Thursday night shows. There's amateur cards that happen first thing in the morning when you're waiting for the UFC to start. Make sure you get on it. Make sure you check it out. Promo code DieHard. Link in the description below. 20% off. It is UFC 329 fight week, you guys. I am joined by one of the sharpest SOBs in the entire game, my man Art. He's got the Hulk smash gloves. He's got the bottle of Fireball. He fits right in here with the diehard MMA crew. Make sure you guys check him out, and let's keep it rolling. Rob Whittaker is up. How many champions do we have on this card, Art? Like, I didn't even count it, but the amount of former champs on this card is honestly insane. So Rob the Reaper Whittaker taking on Nikita Krylov. Rob is moving up, ladies and gentlemen, moving up to 205 pounds. He's making his 205 debut. He is completing his second weight class transition. Do you guys remember Rob Font used to fight at 170 pounds? Crazy as that may seem, he did. Moved up to 185, did extremely well, fought for the title, had the belt a couple times. Getting a little long in the tooth, got bullied by Hamzat and Dreykus, and he is headed up to 205 now. Interesting fight here, man. Another really, really interesting matchup. Nikita Krylov is 34 years old, 31-11 overall. Back-to-back KO losses he suffered, and I cashed both of those tickets, and then we cashed on him against Modestas Bukauskas. Art, I'm on a nice little heater here with my boy Nikita Krylov. I've been singing from the rooftops that Nikita Krylov is mid, Art. Everyone for years has told me, oh, he's so good. He's so good. He's this, he's that. And I kept telling everybody he's really not. He's just middle of the road. And the problem is 205 is thin. There's nobody in the 205-pound weight class. So because of that, this guy is going to be top 5 forever because he's good enough. And there's just nobody there to fight him. Well, as soon as he got a little long in the tooth, as soon as some guys leveled up a little bit, we saw it happen. He took some big KO losses. He's a little chinny. He's a little over aggressive. And that's kind of the thing, is he swings wild coming in to get that offense going, Art. He looks for damage and he looks for it early, and he ends up getting hurt. He leaves himself vulnerable in those situations whenever he does that. So some guys can take advantage of it. He was a lot more restrained in the Modestas Pekaukas fight, Art. I don't know if you noticed that, but there was a very, very significant foot off the gas pedal from this man. He wasn't sprinting in to like barrel these guys down with big double leg takedowns. He wasn't charging in with head kick and three swing combos. He was just kind of chipping away at Modestas. He was very careful. He minded the range. It looked like Modestas was going to knock him out a couple of times, and he would just roll with the punch, and it would kind of slide and glide off of him. It was close. It got sweaty there a couple of times, I'm not going to lie. But he definitely seems to have shifted gears here a little bit late in his career. Now, he does give up the takedowns. He's a very good grappler, so he doesn't mind going to the mat with people. He's okay looking for sweeps and reversals and all that kind of stuff. He's got a 53% takedown defense, which again, that's terrible, but it's mostly because he's kind of inviting it at sometimes. He's big. He's going to be big here in this spot, guys, because Rob moving up from 185, he's going to be 3 inches taller than Rob Whittaker. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage, and when he's on, this is the kind of thing he can pull.
Big right hand on with that right hand. That right hand is straight. Started throwing straight. Oh! Great knockdown for Nikita Krylov now. Pekaukas went out. Mark Goddard has.
He's a big man and he's got power. Now, Rob the Reaper, 26-9. Like I said, former champion, moving up a weight class. He's always got that deep squat stance. He's got that cocked right hand, and he explodes into everything he does. He's got that power jab to the head kick combo. I call it the Reaper. He's got big issues with physicality, though, which I find intriguing. Like, why are you moving up a weight class, man? Like, you get bullied by Khamzat. You get bullied by Dricus. That's really the only time we see this guy lose, is when somebody's got that physical edge over him and he's like, I'll fight some bigger guys. Like, Rob, what are you doing? I understand the weight cuts are tough, I know, but like, that just seems like a bad choice to me. After getting run over in back-to-back fights, he's moving up. I understand these guys are less skilled. I think it's softer at 205, so I think Rob will probably do pretty well, but there's a threat that maybe he can just get out hustled by some of these bigger boys. Rob has an 82% takedown defense. He held Reiner de Ritter, who, by the way, is an inch taller than Nikita Krylov. Not as good of a wrestler, but big guy. Held him to 2 of 15 on takedowns, but he gave up 9 minutes of control in that title fight. And Rob, the big thing I love about him is his timing, Art.
Now tonight with a guy that's been to the top of the sport. There it is.
Huge connection by Whittaker. Follows up with a jab now.
Head kick sits him down for a second.
Oh! An uppercut from Whittaker, and that will do it.
He goes to that jab head kick combo like over and over, and he beat Paulo Costa up with that thing over the course of the fight. And then as soon as you were like, okay, I know what you're doing now, then he switches it up. And then he goes for that little uppercut. And Ali Ashkarov, he was already hurt, never saw it coming, never had a chance. Like, I think Rob's got power. Rob is willing to grind out a decision if he needs to. He's very talented. And like I said, I think he'll have a skill edge moving up. I worry about the size. Art. This whole thing comes down to the physicality for me. Whittaker's a minus 142 favorite here in this spot. Nikita Krylov is the plus 120 underdog. The over 1.5 is a disgusting minus 210. I think over 1.5 makes sense, but that number is gross. With Nikita fighting a little bit slower, I kind of feel like that plays into the hands of a guy like Rob Whittaker. I could see a Whittaker decision in this spot. I could also see a fight where we see Nikita Krylov go back to his grappling. A lot of people forget this guy's a very good grappler. He could cause some of the same problems that Khamzat and Dricus did for Rob. Obviously, he's not the wrestling caliber of a guy like Khamzat, but when you get a big guy who's a good jiu-jitsu player getting on top of you, Rob's got good submission defense. He could survive, not get choked out, but give up minutes. You know what I mean? This is a really tough fight to call for me, Art. I need your help. I'm leaning towards Rob Whittaker, but I know some of that's the heart. You know, some of that's me just loving the Reaper. I want to see him move up. I want to see him succeed. I want to see him win. Is this a spot for a sneaky dog, or do you like the favorite too?
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. Unfortunately, like not a super strong read. The moving up in weight class is obviously a major concern here. And like you said, he did struggle with physicality. I will say, I was pretty big on him against Renier de Ridder, and I thought that he would just beat the brakes off of De Ridder because I honestly I don't think De Ridder's that good, and that's really all that De Ridder had was just that physicality, just to be able to hold on to him, use some knees, in the clinch. He's like lumbering when it comes down to the striking. His wrestling's not the greatest. He goes for the same trip over and over, right? So somehow he was able to squeak out a win. I thought he ended up losing it, but Whittaker did kind of struggle with it. Over the course of 3 rounds, I don't know if it makes that much of a big difference here, but Krylov, I do think, is a little bit better in terms of the striking than the Ritter. I think his wrestling it might be a little bit better there as well. Maybe not the BJJ, but I do think that there's definitely a path here for Krylov through grappling. Historically, Robert Whittaker has really good takedown defense, but again, that's at middleweight. It's a little bit worse at light heavyweight. Light heavyweight, worth noting again, Renier de Witter, as big as he is, he can no longer fight at middleweight. He's moving up to light heavyweight as well. So you get somewhat of a comparison to see how he performs against somebody that relies on his physicality and strength, right? So that's a sort of a red flag on the Whittaker side. But on the Krylov side, again, I'm not convinced that his chin is not completely gone, right? The biggest thing for me at Krylov, and you did mention it, like he's super aggressive, and the reason that he gets knocked out by Reyes is that he's sort of like he's very he telegraphs all of his attacks where he like he level changes a little bit and then he sort of leads with his head, and that's what Dominic Reyes was able to do, is just counter the head, first knock him out, mid-air sort of thing, and then same thing, Guskov puts him down, sort of thing. I don't really recall. Like I watched the Bukakis fight on slow motion, and like you said, he was rolling with the punches quite well. A lot of them were like glancing off the shoulder. I didn't really see him take a clean shot, so I'm not convinced that his chin is not completely done. So it has me hesitant on both sides. Even with totals, to take an over and then Robert Whittaker just starches him on the feet. It's definitely possible. I do lean the over. I do lean Robert Whittaker just because of experience and whatnot. But I could definitely see a path through Krylov. I'm surprised that the line is close. I get it. I don't have a confident read just yet. Um, but yeah, I don't the Whittaker decision is probably the way to go, I think, like you said. But I could see it playing out a couple of ways. It depends on Krylov's chin. It depends on how Whittaker faces the adversity and the big size difference here. Not a strong read here. I'd maybe look to live bet it a little bit to see how he deals with the physicality. Maybe Whittaker will have the advantage is that he will be the faster striker, right? He'll be lighter on his feet, being able to circle. Maybe he'll be able to just stick and move and not like Krylov get into that range where he can impose his physicality, and then just being the faster striker should be able to point him here. So I lean Whittaker, the Whittaker decision, like you said there, but no bet yet. I'll do some more tape here.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you and me are kind of in the same boat here on this one. This is a fight that might take me until Friday, guys. Like, I might wait until I watch the weigh-ins on Friday and then be like, okay, now we have a decision. Now I can tell you what I really think. So tough fight, really tough fight to call. Should be a fun one to watch. Really can't wait to watch this one freaking go. Dano in the chat singing your praises says Art is the man. Dave says, I literally have never thought Rob's problem was that he was too big for middleweight. This seems like a bad move. And there's a part of me that really does kind of agree with you on that. I could definitely see this being a poor move. But you know what? We're seeing it at heavyweight too, though, man, where these guys are moving up and it's so thin. If you've got a skill edge, it means more than the physicality. Rob is not a fragile man. He has had some submission problems before, right? But he lost to the best of the best in their primes. He lost to prime Hamzat. He lost to prime Izzy. He lost to prime Dreykus. Like, he struggled with a prime Yoel Romero, which, believe it or not, Yoel in his prime was 40 years old. But it was, wars, man. This guy goes toe-to-toe with anybody. And Nikita Krylov, he's got some dents in that battle armor. You never know. It's an interesting fight. I can't wait to watch that one, man. I can't wait for that one. Next up, we got Bobby King Green taking on Terrance T-Rex McKinney. The under 1.5 tour continues. I don't know, Art, did you see that? Terrance posted something
Oh,
about the under 1.5 tour or something like that, that he knows damn well what he is doing. This kid is all freaking action. I owe Bobby Green an apology. I counted him out years ago. After the war with Jim Miller, like I thought Jim was going to take him out. And then he beat Jim's ass. Since then, 3-fight freaking win streak. I thought he was shot. I said this dude was shot. He was done. Not so fast. Fast hands, great boxing, those shoulder rolls. So even if you land on him clean, you're probably not going to hit him as clean as you think. Constant pace, constant pressure, underrated grappler. His last fight, he choked out Jeremy Stevens. People forget this dude's got subs because he just wants to go out there and box the whole time. And, you give him age appropriate fights, he wins. You give him lower level fights, he wins. Like at 39 years old, Bobby Green is still a motherfucker. Terrance McKinney at 18-8, 31 years old. He's kind of the exact opposite, man. Round one machine. Like this guy is life and death in the first round. And it's just a coin flip. Like what T-Rex is gonna show up? Is he striking? Is he grappling? He's fast. He's explosive. He's a wrestler by nature. He's got quick subs. So like he's super deadly on the mat if he can get you down there. And he's just nonstop aggression. Sometimes he throws himself off balance and like falls over looking for big shots and stuff like that. The floor shakes when he's ground and pounding people. He hits incredibly hard, but he does not pace himself and he has cardio issues.
Gets referring to people.
Oh my God! It's over! Oh my goodness, Bobby got him!
By Bobby
It's
Green.
over!
What Bobby Green does to people when they've got a little bit of a durability problem, right? Grant Dawson, nothing to write home about with that chin, but we've seen what happens to Terrance McKinney when he slows down too. But when Terrance McKinney is on,
Being home. Oh, kick for McKinney. Nelson's down early. Pounce it. This is Terrance McKinney. Nelson.
I mean, like this is going to be an awesome fight, Art. And I think, why do we get fancy here? Like I hate under 1.5s. I really do. I hate chalk under 1.5s. But Terrance McKinney has told Uncle Dana, you're never gonna see one of my fights go past 7 minutes, boss. Like that's his whole shtick. He's even posting about it on social media at this point. He's never gonna learn how to go 15 minutes. He's never gonna work on going to decision. If Terrance is winning this fight, it's because he's too big and he's too strong and he's too fast and he's cracking the old chin of Bobby Green. If he's not winning this fight, we know he's not lasting through round 2. Just point blank period facts. He's not going to go the distance in a loss, right? So somehow, if T-Rex manages to win this fight over the course of 15 minutes, how? Does he just go out there and wrestle for 15 minutes straight against Bobby Green? Bobby's got real good takedown defense, man. I don't see that happening. Bobby's got a real good get-up game. He's a little older. I get that. And the cardio of Terrance McKinney, I can't see him grinding 15 straight minutes on a guy like Bobby Green. We've never seen him have that kind of cardio before. So it's minus 400 for the under 1.5. Fuck it. Parlay piece. Like it sounds stupid and I want to stay away from that kind of stuff. I always have, but I see everybody and their mom cashing these under 1.5s on Terrance. Like I'm ready to jump in the boat, man.
Oh man, that's a big one. Yeah, I tend to not like Terrance McKinney fights because I tend to go contrarian, and I see everybody playing the under 1.5, and I have a hard time laying minus 400 on a total.
Me too.
Anything can really happen and stuff. Especially Bobby Green. Bobby Green's not really much of a finisher and stuff, but it's really just the Terrance McKinney. He's just all gas, no brakes, and he just comes out super aggressive, and then whatever happens, right? And this fight is very interesting, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why. One, Bobby Green, if you don't know, he comes out with his hands low completely all the time, right? He wants to showboat. He keeps the hands low. He's talking shit the whole fight sort of thing, right? I think that's a bad recipe here against Terrance McKinney. Terrance McKinney just throws everything. He throws that knee up the middle, falls up with the right hand, and then he just backs you up against the fence here, right? So you stay any time with your hands low. I think Terrance McKinney can crack you, can touch you, all that stuff, right? So Bobby Green's going to have to circle around a lot. He's going to be on the back foot. He's going to be sticking and moving. He's going to try to avoid all that stuff, right? The other thing is you touched on it. Terrance McKinney does have a wrestling background, right? And you talked about Bobby Green's takedown defense. I will just say, and I want to just point out, Bobby Green hasn't really fought a real wrestler grappler. And when he did, he gets submitted and stuff, right? So he gave up 2 takedowns against Lance Gibson most recently, right? That's not really, he popped back up, and Lance Gibson not a crazy good wrestler, but before that, Tony Ferguson's the only one that really shot on him. That was back in 2023. Jared Gordon shot 1 takedown and got his stuff, but there was the no contest, all that stuff, right? Drew Dober, again, same thing, 1 takedown. Obviously, Islam gets a takedown, easily submits him and ground and pounds him within, that first 3 minutes and stuff, though, right? But you got to go back to like Thiago Moises in back to 2020, Alan Patrick in terms of, guys that he's giving up takedowns to. And he's not fighting wrestlers, right? He's like, Mauricio Rufy, Jim Miller, Jalen Turner, Grant Dawson, Tony Ferguson. These guys are not really super wrestlers. Not that McKinney is, and it's not going to be McKinney Nurmagomedov, like he said, right? But he does have that wrestling background where he can get the fight down to the ground. And I think if he does, it's a possibility that he just mauls him on the ground there. But Bobby Green's going to have to walk through the fire here, right? And so I think strategically, I don't know why you would bet on Bobby Green pre-fight when you can probably get him, at the end of round 1 at plus 200, plus 250. But the problem is all the books know and everybody knows, and it might get to a point where like McKinney just like dominates round 1, gets him down, cruises, and then he still pick him after round 1, and you're like, what the hell? What kind of line is that? It's because everybody's trying to live bet Bobby Green, and they're not willing to hang that big number here, right? So I kind of lean Terrance McKinney just because I think he has way more finishing upside, and I think that I might be able to time the downfall of him if Bobby Green survives. Then I can jump off of the Terrance McKinney side pre-fight, jump on Bobby Green live, and try to get some money back that way. But I think this is, again, McKinney early, obviously, like not groundbreaking news here, but it's just Bobby Green hasn't fought the type of grapplers, wrestlers. If McKinney does get to the back, the submission is really live. And like I said, like if he keeps those hands down and tries to exchange with him in the pocket, probably lights out for Bobby Green. He's been put out a couple of times there as well. My last point, and you talked about how can McKinney win a decision. It is possible because Bobby Green doesn't push a pace, right? He sort of lets you fight on the back foot. He keeps his hands down. He's trying to bait you into countering, right? He's a counter striker. So that's why he keeps those hands down. He's trying to like lean his head forward so that you jab and he can come back with the right hand counter. And so it could look like a staring contest, or like if McKinney starts to slow down, he might be able to regain some cardio because Bobby Green's not putting it on him. But I think in the 3rd round, if McKinney is still there, then Bobby Green probably tees off on him. But it's a lot of ifs and buts and stuff, and I think you're better off timing it live. And it's McKinney under 1.5, all that stuff. Nothing groundbreaking here, but it wouldn't surprise me if it goes late because Bobby Green's just on the back foot. He's sticking and moving. He's trying to roll and he's avoiding the power punches and stuff. He must know that the game plan is to take McKinney deep. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. Just can he do it or not? Does he have the skill set or not? I just don't know.
Okay, man. And the thing is with Bobby, I know you said he's not really a prolific finisher. And while that was true early in his career, man, the last like 2-3 years, that's all he's doing. He's putting people down. And I know some of that's friendly matchmaking. I get that. But I feel like this is also friendly matchmaking because, like, if he gets rolling downhill on a guy like Terrance, he will step on the gas because he won't be afraid of what's coming back at him. Once Terrance slows down, it's kind of like the Bonfim fight where he really started to kind of break and Bonfim just started teeing off on him. Like, I can see Bobby doing something like that similar here in round 2. So still really hard to say over 1.5 is the move, even with Bobby Green. But I want to comment, my boy Dream here in the chat. I can't say your first name. He says Bobby coming for blood. He's mad at T-Rex. Spill the beef, dude. You got to share the tea. I didn't know he was mad at T-Rex. What is this? Because I'll be honest with you. I'm a complete casual when it comes to this kind of stuff. I believe these narratives. Like, if somebody's got like legitimate beef with somebody, I'm more willing to take an inside the distance prop than a decision prop, right? Because if they're gonna go for the statement, if they're shooting for blood, that kind of thing, that will affect the way I gamble on the fight for sure. So what's going on? My boy Dream says he did an interview with A&F. It's on Twitter. Sounds like they trained together and he pissed. They fighting. Okay. All right. Yeah. So that helps me lean even further towards the under 1.5, just for me personally.
Like you needed more.
Like I needed anything more. I mean, honestly, the FOMO has been plenty, Art, because I can't stand all these people cashing tickets without me on these unders for years and years and years. And me just going, it's too chalky. Minus 225 is too chalky. Here we are, fifth under 1.5 in a row. Congratulations, you yahoos. All right. Next up, we got Brandon Raw Dog Royval. He is taking on Lonair Kavanagh, another really exciting young prospect making it here to the UFC. I've always been Team Raw Dog. Art. This has been my guy. I love Brandon Royval. He's been the bridesmaid his entire freaking career, though. One of these guys that just can't seem to get over the hump. 3-3 in his last 6. 2 split decision wins over Tyra and Moreno. Very close fights. Losses to Pantoja, Kopp, and Joshua Van. Like, just the best of the best. Back and forth fights with my boy Brandon Moreno. Like, all this guy does is go out there and go blood, sweat, and tears with the best fighters in the world. That's what he does every single time. Cardio killer, nonstop offense, foot on the gas pedal, knows how to fight long, lots of body kicks, that stabbing teep, incredible scrambling ability on the ground, but he's long and he's skinny, so he's not super strong. He can get kind of handled physically sometimes, and that's been a little bit of his issue, but he never accepts bottom position. He always finds a way to reverse or squirm out of it and makes it really tough on people. It's guys like Minokop who are slow, who are methodical, who've got that one-hitter quitter type of power. Those guys will cause him serious problems. Lonair Kavanagh bounced back from his fraud check, right? I thought he got fraud checked against Charles Johnson, man. I really did. I was like, okay, like that's one you gotta have. And then he comes back against my boy, my favorite fighter, Brandon Moreno, and left zero doubt in that fight. I've just looked incredible. Comes off a loss, gets a step up in competition, and passes with flying freaking colors. Won via round 1 KO on Dana White's Contender Series. He's a 5-time K1 champion. He's a BJJ purple belt, I believe, unless he's been promoted since the last time I made that note. 2-0 so far in the UFC. 2-0, man. His second fight in the UFC, Brandon freaking Moreno, and he got that win. This kid is on a rocket ship right now. Defensively strong, very elusive, not going to take a whole lot of damage or get hit with a whole lot of big shots. He feints really well, man. He gets people to open up big time, sets up his counters well, nasty low calf kick. He's very explosive. He sprints, and when he goes, he's got serious power.
Game, and like you say, Paul, he's trying to figure out the range. He's trying to figure out the distance and trying to figure out some of Ho's reads so that he can start to counter some of the big shots.
Kavanagh looking to go to the body.
Oh my God!
Shot, and it's wow! First round.
Rumor has it that man is still laying on the canvas, Art. Like, he didn't move for like 10 minutes after that fight. And I wanted to have a little bit longer of a clip on that one so you guys could see the setup and not just the big shot, right? The way he walked him into that thing, it's just beautiful. I have so much respect for this guy after him taking out my boy Brandon Moreno. And I kind of have to side with him in this fight, Art. I love Brandon Royval, but Royval has been fighting tooth and nail with these guys at the upper echelon of the division. There's an argument that he's like 0-5, right? If those split decisions go against him against those guys, he could be 0-5. And even though he's giving everybody hell, he's not getting his hand raised. Like, we're in a world where Royval, Moreno, Pantoja, they're being phased out. These old dudes that cut a whole lot of weight to get down to this tiny little weight class, they're starting to get chipped away. And the young guns are here and they're ready to take over. And I think that's what's going to happen here in this spot, man. Raw Dog at plus 180 would have been an auto click for me 2 years ago. Now I'm looking at Lonair Kavanagh minus 220. What do you think, Art?
I mean, Brandon Royval will always have a spot in my heart. I won that $82,000 same game parlay with him. When he fought Pantoja, everybody was expecting them to get finished. He ended up going to decision. He's just a significant strike machine and stuff, right? So I do like Brandon Royval, but not in this type of matchup. Lonair Kavanagh, he looks special and he looks really good. And the best analogy I can give for Lonair Kavanagh if you ever watch like Sylvester and Tweety and the dog and stuff, right? There's a bird, the cat, and the dog, and
Yep.
Sylvester's attacking the dog, and the dog has like a leash around his neck, and the dog runs to as far as he can go, and then Sylvester just stands right outside of that line and then beats up the dog and stuff, right? He knows if I don't cross this line, I'm good. If I'm on that side, I have to protect myself. On this side, I'm good, right? And then the dog erases the line and moves the line closer to him so that he can reach him. That's basically what happened with Charles Johnson, and that basically is Kavanagh's real weakness. I saw an interview today with Royval. He was on the John Anik podcast, and he's basically saying, like, I see something in the tape of Kavanagh. He does it all the time. He's doing it in the regional tapes, and I'm surprised and all this stuff, and he's going to try to really exploit it. In my mind, that's that line, that drawing the line, just knowing that he thinks he's safe when he's outside of the striking range, and when he's inside, he's striking and he's doing well, right? So the Charles Johnson loss, right? He can see him throw a combo, and then he feels like he's outside of that line, so he just leans back with his hands down. Charles Johnson has that range and that length where he just overextends, wide hook, catches him on the exit, and puts Kavanagh down and knocks him out. So, going into the Moreno fight, they talked about how they drilled it, how they keep the hands up on the exit, keep the hands up on the exit. But, watching that tape, he's still doing the same things where, Moreno's just zoomed, the punch is coming right by his face. And maybe that's just expert distance management, but he's still getting very close. So I think that's probably the path for Royval. I just don't know if he can actually execute. Like you said, Royval's not really big for the weight class, kind of scrawny. In his own words, he called himself scrawny. So he doesn't even, if he lands that counter shot, I don't know if he's putting out Kavanagh here, right? Whereas Kavanagh on the feet, he's going to have obviously volume. Royval's going to have volume as well, but he's going to have power upside. He's going to be the better striker. He has those leg kicks from both stances, right? He had Moreno limping because of the outside low kick, and Royval has those super skinny legs and stuff, right? So I think it's Kavanagh. I think he has all the volume. He has even the grappling here, because Royval's not really much of an offensive wrestler. He is very squirmy off of his back, and when you get him there, he attacks a lot of submissions. I don't expect Kavanagh to really proactively grapple, but he does have that upside in that he can go to it if he needs to. Whereas I don't think Royval can get takedowns on Kavanagh in terms of his takedown defense. He defended all the takedowns from Moreno. Historically, he's only allowed one takedown in his UFC career as well. So Kavanagh gets the ability to dictate where the fight goes, and he's also a really high level striker here, right? So he might not even need to grapple if he doesn't want to. I think that Royval can, be pretty game. He's in his face. He's trying to stand in the pocket and land his own volume. But I think at some point Kavanagh can land a big shot there. I will say as well, yeah, Royval's lost back-to-back fights, but that's against current champion Josh Van and future potential champion in Manal Kape, both top strikers in the division. Josh Van, I think, basically finished him in round number 3. He got saved by the bell. Give Josh Van maybe 5 more seconds. You can see Royval was completely out of it. And Days, even when he was getting up, he was rocked and stuff, right? That ends up winning that fight. Very close fight with Josh Van. I think he was pick him going into round 3. And then same thing with Manal Kape, just puts him out. You can see him go unconscious like a couple of times with that Manal Kape fight. So I kind of think that maybe the chin could be an issue here. Loner Kavanagh does hit hard. I would tend to lean Kavanagh decision, but I have a sneaky suspicion that he could finish him here at any point, because he's such a good striker. And again, it takes place on the feet. You're going to probably see 15 minutes of striking and probably 100 significant strikes from both guys here. So unless he finishes them early there, right? So I got to lean Loner Kavanagh. I think the cat's out of the bag. I was on Kavanagh against Brendan Moreno on short notice in Mexico City, and he won a 5-round decision. So that's worth noting, to put out somebody like Moreno on short notice in Mexico City. Cardio is not an issue. It's not a 5-round fight. It's a 3-round fight. And I think, 5 rounds favors Royval more. 3-round fights, all Kavanagh here. So give me Kavanagh on the money line. I'm not afraid of laying the juice here.
Okay, I like Kavanagh as well. I'm probably gonna be a little bit more casual and parlay him. I know that's not optimal game theory, right? But at minus 200, minus 225, I think he slots in as a pretty nice parlay piece. I'm glad you touched on the finish, because I was going to talk about that a little bit. I feel like my prediction here is Kavanagh by decision, just because of how tough and how durable Raw Dog has been. But like you mentioned, those last 2 fights, man, he got put out by Manal Kape. He got pieced up and took a ton of damage from Josh Van. Even these most durable guys ever, eventually that floor falls out. Like that time is coming when his chin is not going to be there anymore. It seems like it's there right now. His recoverability is still there. When he got dropped by Cop, he bounced back immediately. He gets up, he protested the stoppage, and everyone was like, no, bro, you were out. Like he came back so quickly that he had no idea that he was knocked unconscious for a second there. And that's the kind of thing that worries me, that like he could survive because he wakes up quickly enough. The ref doesn't stop the fight, or Kavanagh looks for grappling, that kind of thing. I feel like it could be a late finish. I feel like it's probably a late finish, but at the same time, I'm like, ugh, like maybe he's got one more here. He greases his way the full 15 minutes here. So the prediction, Kavanagh by decision. I like Kavanagh on the money line. Expect to sweat this one out, you guys. Raw dog doesn't go anywhere. You got to kill this guy to make it like one-sided. So this is going to be a very competitive fight. I don't even hate the plus 3.5 on Brandon Royval if you wanted to look that way instead. If you're like, he's a live dog, but I'm not ready to like jump in feet first, I'm not ready to go full bore on him. If you get a 29-28 type of fight, that plus 3.5 cashes. If he wins, yeah, you miss out on the plus 180. But if he loses the split decision, you're clean. So I don't mind looking at that in this kind of a fight as well. I'll lean with the favorite here, but if you want to be contrarian and go with the dog, I think that plus 3.5 is probably a safer way to play it, even if it's minus 120.
Yeah, but if he gets finishes, the 3.5 loses, right? You're sort of bouncing.
Yes. You got to bank on it going the full distance.
Yeah. I think, if you want a long shot, Royval split decision plus 1,300. It's very long, it's very big, juicy odds. And that's basically his win equity here, is really to just outpoint him, stick and move, right? He doesn't have power to put him away. Maybe catch him in the sneaky stub, but if Kavanagh doesn't grapple, that's not there. So it's probably a close split decision. And that's how he's won his last 2 fights, was split decision at plus 1,300. It's a lot better than plus 185, and it captures a lot of his win equity, I think.
I like it. I don't mind that one bit either. All right, let's keep it rolling, guys. Last couple of fights here. You're not going to believe this, but we have got over 850 live viewers. Thank you all so much for being here tonight, you guys, across all platforms. We haven't had this many viewers in a long time. So thank you all for coming back. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the show. We break down every single fight card like this on Monday. Every week, I always have a new guest. So as much as Art is phenomenal and awesome, we get him around, once a month, once every other month or so. I got a whole roster of people who come on the show to talk fights with me. So if you like fights, if you like betting on fights, this is the place for you. Get subscribed. Let's freaking go. And make sure you check out my boy Art. His details are in the description below. You have got Cory Sandhagen taking on Mario Bautista here in this fight. And Art, I love it. Folks, first and foremost, let's start off, get it out of the way. This is a rematch. These boys fought first way back in 2019 in Mario Bautista's UFC debut. Mario Bautista came out strong. He grabbed onto Cory Sandhagen. He threw him to the ground, and Cory chained together 5, 6, 7 subs. Never let him breathe for a second, and eventually caught Mario Bautista in a submission and tapped him out. It was his first sub loss. It was his welcome to the UFC. It was pretty filthy that Cory just rinsed him on the mat. Since then, both these guys have both grown. Both these guys have evolved. They've fought tooth and nail. They've both been close to the title. This is an awesome rematch, and I can't wait for this fight. Sandhagen is 18-6. He's 34 years old. He's 2-2 in his last 4 fights. His losses were to Merab and to Umar. I mean, it doesn't get better than that, right? The heir apparent in Umar Nurmagomedov and Merab, who had a death grip on this division for 2 straight years. That's not a bad set of losses to have. Cory Sandhagen uses his extreme range very, very well. Lots of feints, lots of movement. He's extremely fast. He's been training with Trevor Whitman for a little while now, and that seems to have worked out really well for him. He did submit Mario Bautista back in 2019, but people forget he's a very good grappler. He prefers to strike. He's very flashy. He's got that knee up the middle that he likes to throw, and he's high volume. He put up 128 significant strikes against Marlon Tito Vera. He knocked out Davis and Figueiredo. This guy is in his late career prime right now, it feels like, Art. Like, he's really making a push for the title. He wants it. He wants it bad. He is right there. He is that close to it. The thing for Cory, I feel like, is the physicality. People who can just out-hustle him, just be stronger than him, yank him around the cage, Those are the guys he seems to be having problems with right now. Mario Bautista, 33 years old, 17-3. He's on an 8-fight win streak, and that was snapped by my boy Umar Nurmagomedov. Immediately bounced back by finishing Oliveira. Not Charles Oliveira, the other Oliveira. Yeah, Vinicius Oliveira. He's really smooth on the feet, you guys. He can control distance and range very well, but he's also a much, much better grappler than he was when he made it to the UFC. He trains out of the MMA lab here in Arizona. He's very tricky, very fast back takes, and that's kind of been his calling card the last couple of years. When he gets on your back, he chokes people out, and he does it with a quickness. He's got a nasty squeeze on him. I cashed a ticket back on the day on Trevin Jones. I thought Mario Bautista was a little chinny, and I was like, I'm going to take this shot with this big power puncher kid. And oh boy, that cost me, because I cashed that ticket, Art. I cashed that one ticket. But from that point forward, I thought I had a beat on Mario Bautista, and I bet against him way more times than I would like to admit. And he just keeps taking my money. I got the lesson. We've learned our lesson. This guy absolutely is a top contender caliber fighter. He gets in there and fights with the best of them, and he has absolutely grown levels. I got a couple highlights for you guys. Check out what Cory Sandhagen can do on the mat.
Yes, sir. Another submission attempt by Sandhagen. He's going Kimura now.
I mean, Sandhagen has just been entertainment, must-see TV every step of the way, working on an arm now, DC.
Yep, armbar. And when a guy keeps throwing him at you like that, right, he's going to get it eventually.
Just like I said, chaining, and he was chaining subs before that, you guys. He had Mario Bautista in a reverse triangle just prior to this exchange happening. So there definitely was a lot for Bautista to handle in that spot. But now, you know, things are a little bit different for Mario.
The trouble here. Uses it to take the back.
Look how fast that man tapped. I mean, the choke was under the neck for about a half a second, and he was already looking for his exit point. Now, you know, some people might claim fixed fight or whatever. I think he's just got that kind of squeeze on him. So I'll be honest with you, Art, this one is a little tough for me, right? It's a little tough for me. But I think that the wins have changed. I think we're in a different place in 2026. And I think Mario Bautista is a live dog here in this spot. Cory Sandhagen is a minus 150 favorite. You get plus 125 to come back on Mario Bautista. And I think he can do what he did at the beginning of that first fight, which is body lock Cory, throw him around the cage, drag him to the mat, and then just not give up the sub. I think he can finish the game plan and execute it better in 2026. They've both made improvements. I think the physicality is the difference, and I kind of like Mario Bautista this week. What about you?
I will say that I like both of these guys, right? And they're very similar styles, long, rangy, and I tend to be on these guys when they fight, right? So now I got to pick a side because now they're facing each other and stuff, right? And
hate when that happens.
Yeah, you touched on it, right? And it's the takedown defense of Cory Sandhagen is not the best, but his get-up game is really good, right? And somebody like Merab, when you get 20 takedowns from Merab, that just tells you like Merab's really good at wrestling and really good at takedowns, but Merab barely held Cory down. Cory popped up every single time, right? And yeah, he gave up big takedowns, but he got back up. I have a hard time thinking that Mario Bautista is going to do better than Merab in terms of the wrestling, being able to hold him down, being able to like get to the back, put the body lock on. He's so scrambly, Cory Sandhagen. It's so hard to hold him there and get him there that I don't see it for extended periods. Could he get a takedown? Yes. But if he gets back up, is Mario Bautista just going to shoot another takedown like Merab will over and over? I don't think so. He might mix it in, but I think once he gets stuffed or Cory, gets back up quickly, he probably, lets go of the grappling game plan, and it probably turns into a striking match. On the feet, I do think that they're pretty close. I think that Cory Sandhagen has more diverse kicking game. He likes to stand more at range. Bautista maybe more hands. He does work in his kicks there as well. So I do think it's pretty close. I do think that Cory Sandhagen has a better scrambling ability. He has more leg locks. He goes for leg locks and heel hooks and stuff. So maybe that comes into play if Mario looks for takedowns and stuff. But I think that it will be close. I do think it's mainly going to be a striking match. It might come down to like volume and forward pressure. I could see like a split decision type of fight here. But in the end, I'm going to lean Cory Sandhagen. I just think he has more weapons, more upside. I think Mario Bautista's win equity is tied to a decision, maybe a close decision there, right? Cory Sandhagen probably doesn't put him out on the feet, but could lock in some sort of sneaky sub there. Like you said, Mario Bautista, when he gets to the back, he's very fast in getting to the back in the rear naked choke. So maybe he can, flash submission and stuff there, right? But Cory Sandhagen did lose to Aljamain Sterling by rear naked
I
choke.
was just going to bring
right?
that up if you didn't get to it.
So it's definitely possible that he gets to the back and subs him. I think it's Cory Sandhagen. He has way more experience at the higher level fighting these top guys, right? Mario Bautista is now taking this step up. He beats Vinicius Oliveira. We were on Bautista in that fight, but Vinicius Oliveira, it was a very high paced round one, a lot of grappling, and then Vinicius basically cardio gases into round two, and then the grappling comes a lot easier into round number two, right? So Patchy Mix looks like a fraud, coming over from Bellator. Jose Aldo, back, at the tail end of his career and stuff, right? Ricky Simone as well. Like these guys, Cory Sandhagen probably beats as well. I just think Cory Sandhagen is just a little bit higher on the totem pole, and I think he does everything just a little bit better here. So give me Cory Sandhagen as a pick. He probably wins a decision. Could be a split decision, could be unanimous, but I think it's close. I think it's close.
Okay. Another very, very, very close fight. We're leaning on opposite sides on this one here. You guys, I don't have a ton of confidence on this card with some of these like closer lined fights, and I'm very chalk heavy on kind of the bigger, wider, more extreme fights. So that's the Link Memorial Dog of the Week, you guys. Mario Bautista is the Link Memorial Dog of the Week. And I got to tell you, I'm feeling a little bit better about it on this one, Art. I don't know if you guys have a woman in your life like I do, but my wife has like insanely vivid dreams from time to time. And the reason we started doing the Link Memorial Dog of the Week is about a year and a half ago. My dog tragically passed away, and that was my wife's dog. You know what I mean? Like, he was a family dog. We had multiple dogs, but the two of them had like a bond, right? Like that was his person, right? So she really took it hard. He visited her last night, Art. So in a dream, she got to hang out with her boy, a year and a half later. He was kind of checking in on her. And, dreams are dreams, right? But she takes comfort in that kind of thing. And she regularly gets visits from people, grandparents that have passed, that kind of thing. So I'm taking that as a positive sign that the Link Memorial Dog of the Week bet has a little more juice in it here this week because he came by to say hi this week. So Mario Bautista it is for me. We'll go head to head on that one again.
What about if he came and whispered to her like Zachary Reese? What if he, he showed up, but did he say Zach Reese or Cesar Almeida as the Dog of the Week, or just said
he's a good boy, Art. He would never say Zachary Reese. He might say Cesar Almeida though. He might. That one would be one he'd be interested in. All right, guys.
Anytime my wife wakes up and she's just like, "I'm mad at you," I'm like, "Oh, here we go. Let me hear about your dream again. What do I do this time?"
Dude, it's hard enough to keep a straight slate when you're awake, right? When you're getting the L in the dreams, it's so much worse. You don't even know what you did. They wake up mad. You got to go buy them flowers or chocolate or something. It's tough, man. It's hard. All right. Co-main event of the evening. Benoit Saint-Denis taking on Paddy the Baddie Pimblett. And Art, you were just talking about the last fight. Your two guys that you love, that you've bet on, that you want to go to war with. That's this fight for me. These are my boys. I bought on the Paddy hype train when he first got to the UFC. I understood he was a market for the UFC. I understood they want to push him, right? I was on the right side of that robbery with Gordon because I said if it's close, he's going to get it. I've been cashing tickets on Paddy. I had a Paddy Baddie to be the champion at 90-1 last year at the end of the year, and he got that fight with Gaethje just a little too late. Rattled Justin Gaethje's brain a couple times in that fight. Like, I know he lost, But there's only one man who's ever been 25 minutes with Justin Gaethje before, and his name's Paddy the Baddy. So he, I think, showed some positives even in a losing effort. Benoit Saint-Denis is a guy who I've been riding the train on since he got here. French Special Forces, just an absolute grappling monster. Bullies people, hits extremely hard. He doesn't look like he's super exciting because he runs face first into everything. You know, most people will take one to give one. Benoit will take 3 to land 1. And he knows that one is going to be far more than anything you've got. And he just mauls people to death. I love watching Benoit Saint-Denis fight because it's like a boa constrictor, man. Like, it's just a matter of time. Everything he does, you can see people breaking under the pressure. You know, the one time he really got caught was that Renato Moicano fight. And it was crazy because Renato was out of gas. I was ready to put, I had so much money on Benoit. That was a terrible night for me. But I was ready to put more money on Benoit live because the way Moicano was fading, Benoit Saint-Denis couldn't see. Both of his eyes were like swollen shut, and he was still walking Moicano down in the second round of that fight. So I still think I will die on the hill that he would have won that fight if they let it continue. So Benoit is my guy. And now I got to choose between the two of them, and it is rough. Art, I think there's one factor that people need to know about. It's totally narrative based. It has nothing to do with skill sets or anything like that. But we are right around the corner from the UFC's annual trip to Paris. You know, we've got Cyril Gane, who's going to be headlining their annual French card, and they need a co-main event for that fight now, don't they? Benoit Saint-Denis was already promised a crack at the at the lightweight title once. All he had to do was get by Dustin Poirier, and then that staph infection hit, right? Also, Dustin Poirier's left hook hit. So, you know, maybe not all the staph infection, but he wasn't quite ready for it. You know, little column A, little column B. I think this is a spot where the UFC is going, look, this is a win-win. Paddy bounces back from a fight against Gaethje, and we've got all the opportunity in the world. The kid is a star no matter what. Benoit Saint-Denis wins. We got a co-main event, fly him out to Paris, get him one more fight, probably a layup, and then give him a title shot, right? Like that's what they're looking to set up here. It's a win-win for the UFC, but I think Benoit is on the A side as far as what they're planning to do next. And that gives him just, you know, little edge because the UFC matchmakers are very good at what they do. This number's coming down. Benoit Saint-Denis was a minus 155, minus 160 favorite a little earlier in the week. Money's flooding in on Paddy. Paddy is a plus 115 underdog right this second. And I think I'm going to have to just hold and see how low this goes. Because the lower it goes, the more interested I am in my boy Benoit Saint-Denis, and there's a reason for that.
Look at how big Saint-Denis is.
That'll do it just like that. Seek and destroy.
Poor Benny. I know his chin is gone, but that one-hitter quitter to the temple was crazy. It's Benoit Saint-Denis for me, Art. This is a tough one because these are both my guys. I've made a lot of money betting on both of them. They've both been on huge win streaks, so I'm free-rolling on both guys. It's tough to choose between them. I think Paddy will go to the bottom. Benoit Saint-Denis will wrestle on top. That might be the difference maker.
Yeah, this is a very interesting fight, and you know, you showed that clip. It just brings me PTSD because we had BSD most significant strikes, and if surprise, they tied at 3 significant strikes each, even though he knocked them down and followed up and stuff. But
oh, good Lord.
Yeah. So Paddy Pimblett. So I will say pre-tape, I was leaning BSD, and I figured this comes down to the takedown defense of Paddy. So I went back and watched the takedown defense, how he reacts, all that stuff, right? We know Paddy's pretty good on the ground, but how is his takedown defense? How does he react on bottom and stuff, right? So he gets taken down 3 times by Justin Gaethje. Those don't really count because they're like snap down. You know, Justin Gaethje gets to the neck and just drags him down. Not typical takedowns. He didn't really want to. No, normally you would take him down and spin to the back and try to grapple. Gaethje wanted nothing to do with him, let him back up. So not really much there, right? Chandler got him down 4 times, which is kind of concerning. Chandler gets onto the back, which is kind of concerning. And, you know, Paddy does a good job of getting Chandler off. He just tripods and he falls off sort of thing, right? Even Bobby Green got a takedown, but that was leg kick related. Paddy throws the leg kick, Bobby Green stumbles, and then he's in close, shoots for a takedown. And this is the thing, is that Paddy loves that front guillotine. So Paddy locks in the guillotine and jumps guard. They credit Bobby Green with a takedown. So again, asterisks there, not really a real takedown, right? Before that, Jared Gordon is concerning. I think Jared Gordon got to the back. He got him down 3 times. Jordan Levitt got him down 3 times there as well. But, he did a good job of, working back up, getting back up, using the fence, a lot of sweeps and reversals. A lot of these takedowns that we're seeing are Paddy related, where he either looks for like an anaconda choke and he's pulling guard, or guillotine, and he's doing something where he gives up the takedown, or because he's looking for a choke. And then when he can't get the choke, he gets back up and stuff, right? So I think that could be the case here. We know that BSD is going to come out and he's going to want to grapple, and he's going to want to grapple early and often, right? He's going to shoot multiple takedowns. I'm pretty sure that he's going to get a takedown or 2, and he's going to have some top time here, and he's going to be on top of Paddy, all that stuff. But at some point, I do think that Paddy is either going to sweep him, reverse him, get on top. And then I do think that Paddy on top is a lot more dangerous than BSD on top, right? And, you look at the Ruffy. Well, first you look at the Dan Hooker fight, and BSD actually really struggled with takedowns against Dan Hooker. The only reason that he gave up those takedowns is Dan Hooker continued to look for that ninja choke, gave up the takedown round 1, and then round 2, Dan Hooker chooses to proactively or counter grapple, and he looks for his own takedown, gets reversed, and then mounted, and ended up getting finished. But before that, he defended 9 takedowns on BSD, because his takedown entries, to be honest, they're not the greatest. He shoots from way outside. He doesn't really set them up. They're very telegraphed, and he just wants to get in close. He gets to the legs, and then he just continues to spam takedowns over and over, right? And then you look at the Mauricio Rufy fight, right? Rufy sort of gets, fraud checked, you would call it, right? He just has a glaring weakness on the ground. Great striker, but not the greatest on the ground. BSD gets him down. The problem is that Rufy actually reverses the position twice. And because Rufy doesn't want to grapple with him, he just stands back up and doesn't let him pay and stuff, right? But if somebody like Rufy is going to reverse you on the ground, it's kind of concerning, because Paddy can do that as obviously 10 times better than Mauricio Rufy. So I think the game plan here is BSD looks for takedowns. He probably gets a takedown or 2, and then Paddy either gets back up or reverses and gets back on top, right? And we saw BSD, when he's on top, when he's the hammer, he's great. But when he's on bottom against Moicano, he's just getting ground and pounded. BSD is trying to elevate. He's trying to get back up. Moicano has some good top pressure, maintains the position, and just elbows him to oblivion, swells up the eye, and ends up winning by doctor stoppage there, right? So I do think that Paddy, if you're telling me Paddy's on top, I think he's going to do way more damage, maybe attack more submissions. Whereas when BSD's on top, if he is looking to ground and pound, I think it gives Paddy that space enough for him to get back up, get back to the feet. Now, on the feet in a purely striking match, as much as I'd hate to say it, but I think that Paddy's the better striker. BSD looks so slow on the feet, where he's just like plodding, he's throwing his strikes, and he's really just throwing the strikes to set up the takedowns. Whereas if Paddy can defend the takedowns, his striking's not the greatest. He relies on those low kicks a lot. He goes low kick inside, outside sort of thing. I think it's southpaw versus orthodox, so Paddy doesn't really get the outside low kick that he really likes. But he still has a good jab. He has nice kicks. I think he's the better striker here. So, I lean BSD pre-fight, but after the tape here, I kind of like Paddy to make it interesting. I think he has more finishing equity. I think that both guys are very super durable. I think that BSD is obviously way more likely to bleed. So you get some blood upside with Paddy. Paddy just eats shots for breakfast and just continues to come forward, right? Scousers don't get knocked out. So I can see visually Paddy getting a nod, because it looks like BSD is more damage. He has all that scar tissue and stuff like that. So wouldn't surprise me if he starts to bleed at any point. And, BSD is reliant on takedowns and ground and pound, but it's very hard to do that against Paddy here. So I kind of think that Paddy's live for the upset. Whether or not he finishes, I don't know. I'm kind of looking at a total here, and potentially playing a total versus a side. But I think that there's upside with Paddy, because it's a hard matchup for BSD, type of fight.
Yeah, I like the call, man. I really do. I mean, it's tough because, like I said, I'm siding with Benoit Santini. He's really been my guy. When he first got rolling in the UFC. I had a 30-1 ticket for him to win the title and be champion at the end of the year. He lost to Dustin Poirier and destroyed that dream, but it looked good. It looked good, especially when we heard he was getting the title fight if he had beat Dustin Poirier. Since then, it's taken him a little bit more time, but he's not really changing anything. He's not really improving. He's still kind of the same guy that he was. And I will tell you, there's some definite concerns. He gets front choked. He absolutely puts himself in danger in every single fight. When he's taking on somebody who knows what they're doing with subs, this guy's neck is in danger. He has to fight for his life out of 1 or 2 chokes, basically every other fight. Paddy is a wicked grappler, man. If he pulls guillotine, I don't know if we're going to get out of it. You know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that does scare me. I do think Paddy is live to get a sub in this fight, believe it or not. I agree with you. Paddy probably is the more technical striker, but I do think the guy coming forward with the big power shot, stuff like that, that tends to sway the judges a little bit. So I don't know. Toss up on the feet. You never know. I could see I know Paddy's very hard to finish. Obviously, I don't think anybody's knocking him out or anything like that. If Gaethje couldn't do it, Khabib himself said Gaethje hits the hardest out of anybody he's ever faced. I don't think Benoit Santini is getting him out of there unless it's a TKO. If he's getting on top of him and Paddy can't squirm, the ref may step in and save him. That's the only way that's happening. I could see an arm triangle for Benoit Santini. I could see like a, hey, I'm way too physical and powerful here in top position. But I'm not even convinced that's happening either, though, because we've seen Benoit Santini make mistakes. You know, he's taken a couple people's backs before. And like you mentioned, the way Chandler got on the back of Paddy and then fell off, Benoit has done that. He did that against Mauricio Hoofy. He transferred to the mount right away. Hoofy scrambled. He took the back. He threw in the body triangle. Hoofy postured up, and immediately Benoit Santini fell off. So as much as he's an incredible grappler, he's very heavy from like wrestling positions. From the jiu-jitsu positions, he doesn't flow the way these BJJ guys do. So I do think there's opportunities where Paddy can sweep and reverse. So as much as, you know, I said the closer this thing gets to pick him, the more I'm interested in Benoit Santini. I don't think I can bet this co-main event, you guys. First off, it'd be a blemish on my perfect record, right? The fact that I'm doing so well on both these guys, Art, I don't want to give that up by losing one when they face each other. It is an extremely close, extremely tough fight, and I can make arguments going both ways. I could see Benoit Santini being the first guy to ever to get the nod via decision over Paddy in this spot because Paris is in the chamber here, because we've got Cyril Gane as champion and they're going to France in a couple of months. Like, this could be the one in a close fight where it goes against Paddy for the first time ever. But I also can see this fight just not having any idea who won it at the end of 15 minutes. So good luck, guys. Good luck. I'm picking Benoit Santini to get his hand raised, but I think there's very, very, very valid points for Paddy the Baddy to get it done.
One last point here. If you watch the Paddy Pimblett Jordan Levitt fight, they talked about the fighter meetings, right? They meet before the fights. They give Anik all the juice about like what's going on and stuff, right? And Paddy says like, if Jordan Levitt's gonna shoot takedowns, I'm gonna elbow his face into oblivion and stuff, right? And he kind of does that, right? They still call it Travis Brown elbows. He hasn't been in the UFC forever. I don't know why, because he elbowed one guy with them, but he basically looks for those elbows, right? So BSD shoots that single leg with the head on the outside. It's going to present that elbow to him, especially if Paddy's up against the fence. He's going to just smash elbows. So I could see, you know, opening him up, cuts, all that stuff. It's going to be hard to fight on the Paris fight with bloody face and stuff. All those cuts have to heal. So that's just another wrinkle of just Paddy being able to throw more damage. You know, whereas BSD's reliant on ground and pound. So yeah,
it's a valid point. It's a very valid point. Good luck, you guys. Good luck on that one. But Art, my friend, it is time. And guys, we are just shot. You know what? I should have had Fireball chilling in the cooler, man. This is the type of night to get drinking.
It's the same ball every time I come on with you. I'm almost there.
Almost there. We'll get our way through it for sure. Cheers, my friend. I don't have any cold ready to go, so I'm going to pass at the moment. But we have 980 live viewers here on the podcast, you guys. And thank you, each and every one of you, for tuning in. It is time for the main event of the evening. Conor McGregor taking on Max Blessed Holloway. They are running it back. We have Conor McGregor back in the UFC. This fight is happening up at 170 pounds. What's not to love about this fight? I am beyond pumped to watch this one, Art. And I'm going to start you guys off with the OG. I'm going to start you off with the clip that started it all, because this one has lived in infamy ever since it happened. And it's still one of the top 5 highlights of all time ever.
Notorious Conor McGregor. Black trunks for the champion, Jose Aldo Jr. Conor relaxed and smiling. Oh! Just like it! The new UFC featherweight champion!
For all of his faults, for all the things we could say about Conor, there has never been anybody who's captured the UFC game the way he did when he was on his rise, man. It was really incredible to watch what that guy did. But is the Conor that we are going to get on Saturday the same guy? Because he is 37 years old now. He is 1-3 in his last 4 fights. He hasn't fought since 2021. Back-to-back TKO losses against Dustin Poirier, one of those including that awful, brutal leg kick that just shattered his leg and is unfortunately, something that set him back a long way. He had his drugs to rehab, right? He was all set, good to go. Took him a while. He had so many fights against Michael Chandler that were scheduled, then canceled. It's funny. You go on Tapology and it shows one canceled fight against Michael Chandler. And it's like, really though? They tried to make that thing happen like 8 times and they did the Ultimate Fighter. And then he left him hanging after that. And all this, I really feel bad for Michael Chandler, if we're being honest. The question for me, Art, is what are we going to get out of Conor McGregor in this fight? Because back in the day, he was built like a whippet. He was tall, he was long, he was fast. It was all about the timing. It was all about the speed. Yes, he had the power, but he could connect with you when you didn't see it coming. And that's what really caused the damage. Now, it's like, okay, now he's more of a bruiser. Now he's more of a power puncher, And when he went toe-to-toe with a guy like Dustin Poirier, sorry to say, he lost that battle, man. He was out skilled. He was out techniqued. And even in the end, he was out toughed, He wasn't able to keep up that level of fight against somebody who was a literal BMF title holder, right? And now that we're years removed from that, what does he look like? I know he looks good on the heavy bag. Don't get me wrong. He got all the juice he needed to heal up from that ankle break. He is thick. That boy's got some muscle on the frame, so he's going to hit like a truck. And the UFC said, let's put this at 170, right? He can't even make 155 pounds anymore. He's so big. He's so muscly. He can't get down to 155 anymore. It's not physically possible. So he's going to have a power advantage. It's like that scene from Rocky where he's like, all right, your knees are busted. You're not fast. Your hips are all torn up. We're going to focus on horsepower. Like, that's all you got. Sheer back-breaking, one-hitter quitter type of power. And I feel like that's what we're going to get from Conor McGregor. Don't get me wrong. In the first couple minutes of the fight, he'll look kind of like he used to. But Conor always had a bit of a poor gas tank. When Conor's gas tank edged off just a little bit, he stopped being that guy. We saw it in the Nate Diaz fight. And in the Nate Diaz rematch, he had to completely change his entire fighting system to win a 15-minute fight. Because he wasn't built for it. Like, this guy was not built to win extended fights. And to this day, I think he's still not. That's just not the way he does things. And so I think he's going to come out and he's going to look for an early finish in this spot. Weight advantage, size advantage, 5-inch reach advantage, 170 pounds. I think that's where it's at. I think Conor's going to come out here and make this thing look ugly early. Max Holloway, 27-9, 34 years old. He's 2-2 in his last 4 fights. He also fought at 145. Now he's moving up here for this one. He just recently moved up to 155. So it's not nearly as much of a natural transition for Max Holloway. He moved up to 155, once before, but then cut right back down. So this guy is still not like bulked up and built at 170 the way that a guy like Conor's going to be. He's just not cutting weight. So there's not going to be a big physical advantage to him moving up. Now, he'll obviously have a cardio advantage. He'll probably have a speed advantage. He's going to have a volume advantage. We know Max Holloway breaks UFC records on people's faces with how much volume he puts up. But he's still, even to this day, very tough to put away. Max Holloway, even in his last couple fights, he hasn't been wearing damage as well as he used to. He's another guy that's insanely durable, that we're starting to see the cracks in the armor. Gaethje wobbled him a couple of times. The only guy to knock him out was Ilia Topuria. That was a year ago at this point. He did get submitted by Dustin Poirier way back in 2012. Those are the only 2 guys to finish him. 1 sub loss, 1 knockout loss. That's it. 6.91 significant strikes landed per minute at 48% accuracy, which is absolutely insane. The cardio and the pace this guy puts on is something different. And when he gets people extended in fights, he just continues to step on the gas, man. Got to remind everybody of maybe the second best highlight in UFC history, because it's between these two guys, in my opinion.
Holloway just told him, stand right here. Oh, big connection late.
I put the poll out, Art, on Twitter. I said, which is it? McGregor or Holloway? Number 1 or number 2? What do you think?
To win?
No,
Or the
for
best
the
knockout?
highlight. Best highlight
Oh.
for the knockout.
I was there in person for UFC 300. It's all timer for me. It was just a crazy event, and just to be there for that, and nothing will top Holloway.
There you go. You know what? Part of it for me is just the way Gaethje lands. You know, the face down, doesn't move, no follow-up shots. Like, that makes it that makes it a little more epic to me. I got Max Holloway ever so slightly over Conor McGregor for the knockout highlight. But man, this fight feels very dangerous to me, because I think Conor McGregor is being put in a position where he can win. I know he wants to fight out his contract. He wants to go make millions fighting bare knuckle FC, where they'll toss him cans and he can knock people out for his own company and just ride off into the sunset that way. But he's still got to fight out a couple fights here in the UFC, and he's still the biggest draw in the game. And they're going to put him in a spot where he has a shot to win. I think he's got to do it early, Art. If he lets this fight get into round 2, I think Max Holloway is just going to build and build and build, and he will eventually run away with this thing. We get to round 2, we get to round 3, and Max is just going to put a beating on Conor McGregor the deeper that it goes. But it's very dangerous early on, because Conor still does have that power. Max has been waning in his durability, and he does get hit. He's willing to step into the fire for sure. So it's a very, very sketchy fight. The one thing I think I'll say before I kick it over to you is this feels like a trap, because the bookies opened up Conor McGregor as a plus 450 underdog. And they just, guys, when they do that, we know it's the biggest name in the sport. We know everybody and their mom. That dude who hasn't tuned in to the UFC in 5 years is going to run to the window and put $100 on Conor McGregor this week. They know. So they're giving you that extra juice. They're saying, we know you're going to bet this guy. How's plus 300 sound? And you go, fuck yeah, that sounds great. It's Conor McGregor, bro. All that money pouring in on Conor. He's still a plus 180 underdog at this point, you guys. Max Holloway was a massive, massive favorite. And it's kind of like when Conor went to go box, if you remember, Art. They put a massive price tag on Conor McGregor because they said he's got no shot to win this fight. And the whole week it was hyping up Conor. What's Conor going to do? All he's got to do is land once. He never stood a chance. People that sat back and waited and bought low on Mayweather, they just made bank. And the bookies just bathed in Conor McGregor money, even paying out the guys that made big piles on Mayweather. It didn't matter. They made so much more money scooping up all of the action on Conor McGregor. That's what this feels like to me. And that's one of those, once every other year, once every 5 years types of spots where the bookies are willing to dangle the carrot. And if you can see it and you can stomach it, just take the other side. I got to pick Max Holloway, Art. I think we're going to hold our breath for one round. And then I think Conor's going to get tired. And then I think the wear and tear is going to show up again. I think the cocaine is going to show up again. I think the scar tissue is going to show up again. And I think the fact that Max is battle tested and current, the fact that he's been fighting actively for the last 2 years, ring rust is a real thing, man. I got to wonder what Conor looks like after he swings big and misses big for about 3 minutes. What does he look like? I don't know if he's the same guy. So it's Max Holloway, KO2, KO3, in my opinion.
Yeah, you touched on basically everything that's there, right? And so Conor hasn't fought in 5 years, so there's not a lot of tape to go off of. There's not a lot of stats to go off of. It's really just narrative based and stuff, right? And so you touched on the Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather. That was one. I'm thinking about like Jake Paul and Mike Tyson might be another one. And then you might get Conor McGregor, Max Holloway, like the all-time money-making, like easiest spot of the century, where you're getting like a very playable line, and it's pros versus Joes, and it's very like all the Joes come out of the woodwork. They see the name, they want to get real deep into the game and the fight. Let's put $50 on Conor McGregor. Let's put $100. Let me see if I can hit big and stuff. Right. My advice to anybody coming in that hasn't watched it or hasn't been following it, just don't do it. Just watch it to have fun. I think you're better off just saving your money. Watch it. If he wins, great. You're happy about it, right? Is he going to win? It's possible, but kind of unlikely and stuff, right? So historically, this is again, I'm just going off of narratives. I'm going off historically what we know of Conor McGregor 5 years ago. Even 5 years ago, he wasn't the greatest. He relied on his speed, his counter left. That's the best, probably his best attribute is his pull counter. He fights from southpaw. You saw it in the Jose Aldo clip where he pulls you in, then he steps back, punches you in with the straight left and finishes him, right? I remember being real big on Jose Aldo in that fight, and then losing, and that was the start of the McGregor era, right? And then the sport's just taken off from there. But even the Poirier fights, he loses both. Yeah, I remember, he's screaming, "Doctor stoppage, doctor stoppage!" Make sure, you can't fight on one leg. That's done, right? But he made them say it's a doctor stoppage because he couldn't fight and stuff, right? Should have been a
He didn't want to give Dustin the
Oh, yeah,
satisfaction of
yeah.
knocking him out.
The doctor told me I couldn't fight, so I can't fight, all that stuff, right? But it was related to the leg kicks, right? And Poirier checked a bunch of leg kicks, threw leg kicks. It wasn't just a freak accident. It was over and over damage and stuff, right? And then so yeah, after the Poirier fight, he goes in for surgery. I think he gets like a titanium leg in there. There's a bunch of recovery, right? I think he was on Hawani show this week openly talking about how he was taking steroids because of the recovery. The doctor told him like he might not be able to walk again, so it was between walking and not walking. So it was easy decision to take all the steroids that he could to help him recover. I get it, right? I get it. He wasn't even planning on fighting, all that stuff, right? So he's been out of the game for so long, and the reason why he was calling out Michael Chandler was that was probably the only winnable fight for him in the top 15 fights, right? In terms of the roster of UFC fights, he's gone and he's been on the sidelines for so long that I don't think that he could beat any of the top 10 guys. And so, he's fighting Max Holloway, which, on paper, they're giving you Conor, somebody that doesn't grapple you. So at least you get to strike with him. And, somebody that you have a history with that we can spin the narrative to say, it's a rematch, you're, coming back for it sort of thing, right? But it's trying to be a winnable fight, but it's really not, right? Because Conor, what does he rely on, right? He relies on power early. His cardio is suspect. His volume is suspect. His offensive wrestling is suspect here, right? So you're relying on Conor McGregor to get a knockout within the first round, maybe 2 rounds. I don't even know if he has 10 minutes of cardio, but at least round 1 KO, maybe round 2 KO, right? And that's about it, his win equity, right? Max Holloway is one of the, if not one of the most durable guys in the UFC. There's a stat like he's eaten 3,000 significant strikes, never been knocked down, let alone finished. That was going into the Ilya Topuria fight, but he got knocked down and finished in that. But he's been historically super durable. He's been really good volume, good cardio to go 5 rounds, right? It's a nightmare matchup for McGregor. If you're telling me McGregor is going to come out and do what Topuria had to do to put him out of there, and Topuria finished him in round 3. It took him 3 rounds to get there to finish him. It wasn't like Topuria just came out and searched him in round 1, right? So I think the game plan here is, on paper, he's going to come out and finish him. Good luck, right? Like, to finish Max Holloway early, nobody's ever done it. And you're telling me that Conor McGregor coming off the couch 5 years, hasn't fought in 5 years, is going to do that. I have a hard time seeing it, right? So my assumption is that all of the Joes are going to come. They're going to bet their money. That line's going to get better and better. I've been watching it the whole time. I almost played Holloway at like minus 350 at opening, minus 300, at minus 250. I sprinkled a little bit minus 210, and I'm waiting for it to go down to like minus 175 ish. I think it might close around that range.
How low do you see it goes? How low do you think it
I wonder. I think right before fight time, you might get like minus 175 ish, I think.
Wow.
And then honestly, on the live line, you might get Max Holloway around pick him because Conor's going to come out. He's going to look good early, right? And I think the game plan for Conor is to probably stay at range. I think he wants to kick. He's very kick heavy now. You know, he's trying to bait him into a counter and stuff like that. I don't see Conor really crashing the pocket. That's not really his style. He's more finesse. He's more light on his feet and stuff. He just doesn't have that anymore. At 170, he doesn't have the speed that he used to have. He doesn't have the footwork that he used to have. Really relies on big power here, and it's really hard to get Holloway out of there, right? So I think it's a tough matchup here. I actually went into you know, I wanted to see what he was doing for the last 5 years because one, we know he wasn't training, he wasn't fighting at all, right? Well, so what was he actually doing, right? And there's like so many of these like lawsuits. He got accused of like he beat up a DJ. There's like a rape allegation in there. He got released by Proper 12. He did that movie, the Roundhouse, right? He was in he ran through a red light and like dangerous driving. He has all these like things on his things that he was doing over the last 5 years that you can't tell me that he's going to come into 5 round fight shape and be able to go toe to toe with Holloway over 5 rounds or finish him early here, right? So it's like it's Holloway or pass. If you're gonna bet on Conor McGregor, hit me up. I'll give you the -2, you know, the 180 price tag, and
Give
then
him
we'll
the
do it
no
that
vig.
way. Yeah. So I can get some -180 on Holloway sort of things. But I think this is one of those generational spots that you get maybe like once a year where you're like, I should have unloaded the second mortgage and unloaded it. Why was I thinking that he had a chance, sort of thing? So that's my take. It's hard to really look at the tape. There's no tape. There's no stats. It's really all narrative based. But I just think it's a bad matchup. Even with all Conor in his prime, it's going to be a bad matchup.
Okay, you and I are seeing this fight a lot. We are good to go. Thank you very much for joining me on the show, my friend. Big card, big viewership, big breakdown. You guys, usually the show is about 2 hours or less. We went about 2 hours and 30 minutes tonight. Thank you to each and every one of you diehards for tuning in. It was awesome to have this many people watching the show live tonight. Please, guys, hit that like button and get subscribed before you leave. Art, my man, you spent 2 hours plus with me talking some good MMA action. Thank you so much for the time, for the dedication. Really appreciate you. If you've got any sponsors or if you want to let people know where they can find more of your stuff, etc., the floor is yours, my friend. Feel free.
I appreciate you, Clint. Always like breaking down fights, especially with these big cards. You can tell with the breakdowns. I go deep into the tape study. I watch a lot of the fights. I make sure to watch all the fights, get an idea of what the game plan is. And I also work here at Fighting Stats. We have exclusive UFC stats that nobody else has. So it tells us, if fighters are moving forward or backwards, how often they're throwing jabs, how much time they spend in side control versus mount, sort of thing. So I pair that with my tape study. I make my own bets with my own money, sort of thing. We have an insane record. Last year we made 360 units, over $150,000. This year we're up almost 100 units, just shy of 100 units, $32,000 for the year. Last year was 26% ROI. This year was around 11%. So it's a little bit back and forth. And I do a lot of tape study throughout the week. So you can find me at patreon.com/fightingstats. The tape study is free. I turn on the camera. I'm watching tape. I'll share my screen. I'll say, this is what I'm seeing in this fight. This is how he's reacting. And I give you the breakdown right after that. So I do that during the week. And then on the week of the actual fight, Saturday, I'll probably do a live betting show here. I do, like Clint said, very good at live betting because I understand maybe what the game plan is. And, if so-and-so can't get takedowns early and that's his path to victory, then he's probably a fish out of water here. So, now go live bet that spot. So I understand the narrative. I understand the path to victory. And if guys aren't getting there, then I can do really good at live betting. So join me. Sometimes I'm on YouTube. Almost all the time I'm on Patreon, live betting together. We're killing live betting as it is. Like the 100 units doesn't include any live betting numbers. So far, we're up 40 units live betting. So come check me out, Artsy. Fighting Stats. We're at patreon.com/fighting stats. You'll get all the value there. Nobody leaves disappointed.
All right, there you guys go. Support my guy. Appreciate you. Come on back, guys. We do the live stream every single Monday. And then, of course, we do the total takedown where I go over the card again, looking at overs and unders specifically. I'll do my hot props show later in the week as well, where we try to hone in once all the props drop. We've got better numbers and stuff like that. We'll try to predict some exact outcomes for you guys. And then, of course, on Friday, we do the undefeated post-weigh-in show. It's my favorite show of the week. I jump back on live with you guys. We'll watch the face-offs. We'll let the fighters size up. If there's any late changes or like the new fight that we got, I'll give you some more information if I've got it on that Friday show and kind of put all the pieces of the puzzle back together one last time. So hit that notification bell. Make sure you hang around, come back around. I'll see if I can get us somebody for the Sharp Action Report this week. We were supposed to get my boy Andrew back for the Sharp Action Report. I hit him with the DM. He hasn't got back to me yet. We'll see. We'll see. That's a fun show. If we can do that one, I would love to do it as well. But hope this helps you out. Please gamble safely and responsibly. You guys never bet more than you can afford to lose. That is the secret to this game. Have fun with it. Don't go crazy with it. I know Conor's back and you're trying to make a quick $100, but please, if you can't afford 100, then only bet your 50, right? Like, don't go crazy this weekend. Make sure it's an entertainment thing, not something that's going to cause you long-term pain. We are super excited about this fight card. It feels good to be an MMA fan again. We've got a lot of upcoming cards that we're super excited about. Lots of fun, intriguing matchups. These fights are going to decide the future of these divisions, and I can't freaking wait. Thank you all for being here. Art, thank you again for joining me, my friend. For myself, for my man Art, that was the Die Hard MMA podcast. Thank you all. Good luck this week. Fill those pockets up. Cash some checks. Be good. Let's roll.